Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Germany. Welcome to Munich. We have our first European Star Wars sector qualifier of the season. It's Shadows of the Force. It's myself, Ross Gilbert, with the lovely Ben Fitzpatrick. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing very, very well, Ross. Welcome to everybody tuning in. It's a pleasure to be here in what is the last Legends of the Force event
It is.
as well in the calendar. Secrets of Power pre-release weekend happening this weekend, but players here, 500 plus of them in Munich, Germany, are not worried about that. They are worried firmly about Legends of the Force and securing those points for Galactic Championship invites.
I mean, this seems like a really kind of good weekend where you play some standard format Legends of the Force, and then you finish that event, and then you go to a Secrets of Power pre-release. But you're right, we've had our two American events. Both of those were sector qualifiers. We've already had a regional championship just a few weeks ago in Bilbao. You and I were both there. That was a very fun event. We're now finishing off Legends of the Force here in Munich in Germany with our sector qualifier, the only one this set for Europe. And we've got about 510 players last time I looked. It sold out in minutes when the tickets went up. And this is your last chance. If you want that format with Legends of the Force, this is your very last chance to do so. All these cards are going to be legal when the next set of tournaments roll around, but we're going to be adding in Secrets of Power as well. So we are ending the format here this weekend.
Yeah, we certainly are. And it's been a really, really intriguing format as well, considering that we've had a suspension list update partway through that format as well, with Force Throw going away. And one of the biggest decks that was a beneficiary of Force Throw in Mother Tolzin still hanging around and winning major tournaments as well. And it feels like there's still that question mark left in the back of players' minds, even with the results that it's put up. It's the Regional Championship Premier winning deck.
Yep.
It's the Galactic Championship Premier winning deck. But people still either don't necessarily seem to have a trust in the deck or are favoring things like Han Solo Worth the Risk and Cad Bane a little bit more. Here, one of those players that is favoring Han Solo Worth the Risk is in the feature match area and is one that has become very, very familiar to the Star Wars Unlimited community.
Yeah, when I interviewed him after the second place finish in Bilbao, I asked him, right, can you tell me the correct pronunciation of your name? I'm not very good at this. And then he said, just call me Sip. Everybody calls me Sip. I would like to be called Sip. So that's what we're going to do here. Mikolaj Vendowski, or Sip, as they are very well known, took second place in Bilbao, second place at that regional championship. Now coming into this sector qualifier, looking to try and go one step further. And one of the running themes we've had in Star Wars Unlimited since the game's inception has been Poland's dominance, but we'll get to that in a moment. We have got Han 2 on the left. We've got Gar Saxon on the right, and we are rolling, it seems, with our sector qualifier here in Munich, Germany.
Yeah, this is a really, really cool matchup as well, first and foremost. Han 2 Energy Conversion Lab has been something that's become a little bit more prominent since the Force Throw suspension was certainly in the format running around a little bit, but post-Force Throw suspension, you've seen quite a lot of Han Solo Worth the Risk players peeling away from that Force Vigilance base and using Energy Conversion Lab. Gar Saxon with Energy Conversion Lab, however, is a little bit more of a newer invention through Legends of the Force. Obviously, being in Command and Villainy, you've got cards like Overwhelming Barrage at your disposal that's on screen. You've also got one of the new and best upgrades from Legends of the Force at your disposal in Craving Power, being able to pay 5, attach it to a friendly unit, and then when it's played, deal damage to an enemy unit equal to an attached unit's power. So it's kind of a single target extra copy of Overwhelming Barrage, and of course with it being an upgrade, you're going to get that extra power boost from the Gar Saxon leader ability. So you're going to get that extra point of damage, which we know can be very, very important in Star Wars Unlimited.
Absolutely can. Well, we are starting off here with Boris playing. Was that an Inferno 4 coming down?
It's the Onyx Squadron
Brute. It is the Onyx Squadron Brute. Thank you very much. They're all TIE fighters at the end of the day, but it is that Onyx Squadron Brute that does hit the board there. Heals 2 damage from your base when defeated. And, of course, we've got a Grogu coming down from Sip here. Now, generally, you wouldn't be able to play Grogu as a free cost on your first turn, but that is where Han Solo Worth the Risk comes in, allows you to play those characters a little bit cheaper at the cost of having a couple damage on, but we've got a pilot, Ben.
Yes, and it's Iden Versio, which is a really, really great pilot. Not only of self, obviously being a pilot, counting as an upgrade, so giving that +1, but also bringing in with the shield token as well. So you see with Mikolaj there, using the Grogu action to move the damage off, only pings the shield away and doesn't do any damage into the Onyx Squadron Brute itself. So doesn't leave itself vulnerable to anything like open fire to be able to contest and remove that unit in the space arena.
Absolutely. We should remind you there, Grogu, of course, has that skill whereby you can exhaust it to heal 2 damage and then deal that much to another unit. So essentially, you're playing characters cheaper with Han with damage. Here we see Poe Dameron coming down and creating that X-Wing token. But then next turn, Grogu can move that damage off of Han Solo, off of Poe Dameron, onto your opponent's characters. And that's why that Grogu works so beautifully in this deck. That combo is fantastic. You're playing cards cheaply, and you're not even getting a downside because Grogu's got your back.
Yeah, really interesting here as well that we've not gone with the combo to jump the Poe Dameron into the X-Wing token, but I can only imagine because of how overwhelmingly big that Onyx Squadron Brute is in the space arena. It's boosted up to, 6 HP, thanks to the Iden Versio pilot.
Correct.
It's not going to be an easy sort of unit to keep in the space arena because Boris just goes ahead and goes, okay, cool, I trade into it, and then you've not got the Grogu outlet. So really heads up play there actually from Mikolaj to go away from what is a bread and butter combo with that unit in this deck.
No, absolutely, but sometimes it's just checked too easily. Here's a fun one. More shields coming down. Shuttle ST-149 comes in with a shield, does allow you to move a token upgrade as well if you wish. Could have moved that token that it's got onto something else, choosing instead to just keep it on the shuttle for the time being. Could you not move on to the Onyx Squadron Brute and just make it kind of gigantic and it's got a shield as well?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because typically you'll actually see the shuttle ST-149 take the shield off of a Director Krennic on the ground arena or make it double shielded here. Let's say you may take control of a token upgrade on a unit and attach it to a different one. So there is the argument maybe that we could have put it onto that Onyx Squadron Brute with the pilot, but maybe Boris just favoring having multiple threats in the space arena, knowing Han Solo Worth the Risk isn't necessarily a leader that is apt at making those kinds of trades.
Absolutely, and of course it was always just going to get bumped by Grogu anyway, but we did get a different Poe Dameron coming down from Mikolaj here, and that is your Poe Dameron quick to improvise, one that we've of course seen for a very long time at this stage. On attack, you can discard 3 cards, and you get various advantages like dealing damage, defeating an upgrade, or making your opponent discard. So it's a card we've seen in Heroic Aggression pretty much. If you're playing it, you're playing Poe Dameron. It's a pretty top-level card.
Yeah, it's been a staple since it's come in, but though I think here is going to be that craving power that I was mentioning earlier on, being able to immediately out the Poe Dameron on the ground arena, and with it being an upgrade, even with Mikolaj having been able to deal with the shield token in the last action phase, the upgrade goes straight back on, but we have now an ambush coming in, which has Fangfighter ambush in, and that's really, really nice because we're using the when played to pop the upgrade of the Iden Versio pilot, stripping away that 3 HP boost, and then the 3 power of the Fangfighter ambushing in and dealing with the Onyx Squadron Brute.
Absolutely. One of the downsides of pilots has always been that the upgrade removal will get them. Well, now we see the leader being deployed here from SIP, getting that Han Solo out as an extra unit. Of course, you can always use your leader skill and then deploy, and then you've got your leader actually there as a unit that can attack and do all the kind of things that leaders generally tend to do. We see an R2 coming down here as well. That is with that, leader skill, which you still get when you're actually deployed. So we've got an R2 coming in cheekily as well.
Yeah, Miss Artu, a nice little consistency piece as well. As you can see, Mikolaj having a little bit of a decision about whether to keep this top card on the top of the deck or to put it onto the bottom of the deck. Was a nice piece that he utilized in the grand final matchup in Bilbao a few weeks ago as well. He's really mulling over this card here, and maybe it's just about whether he's going to get the opportunity to see that card.
But at least show it to us on the stream, then. Show us what the decision is. I want to see it. And it does look like we are just tapping out here and just swinging everything into the base. Boris has got nothing left to do. No more defensive plays to be made this turn. So we are just swinging in. And a Battlefield Marine coming down as well, because I don't know why not. And then we get to the regroup phase. And a quick reminder here, during the regroup phase, you draw 2 cards. And you may put a card down as a resource if you wish. It is not something you have to do. And of course, there is always that point in the game where you change your mind and you go, well, I've resourced enough. We can stop resourcing this game now.
Yeah, but Mikolaj could be in trouble here, because from my maths at the very least, Mikolaj is 2 power away on board right now at the very least from losing game 1. We've got the Shuttle ST-149 of 3 base power. We've then got the +2 that the Craving power is granting. So we've got any way to deal some extra cheeky damage in. We could be able to try and sweep the game in this action phase. We're not going to go for that just now, however. We are going to ambush in the Twilight of the Apprentice Darth Vader to be able to take care of the Han Solo leader unit and popping our own shield to do so, thanks to the when played ability.
Yeah, that will happen very quickly, but basically Darth Vader comes in with a shield for you and a shield for one of your opponent's characters, units, but on attack, you get to defeat a unit with a shield. So essentially what you saw there was Darth Vader coming in, putting a shield on one unit, attacking to lose its own shield while taking out the unit you put the shield on, and essentially 2 units went down and Darth Vader got a shield and lost it, but we didn't actually do that on the board. So that's what just happened there. That's how Darth Vader took out those 2 units immediately. And now we've got the Gar Saxon you said you wanted. A bit more damage on the board here, Ben.
But we've got an answer. Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to sit down as a Sentinel. It has the Sentinel as soon as it gets played into the ground arena as well, the Protective Padawan, because it's when you play a Force unit, including this one. So Mikolaj is going to see the next action phase, but I think Boris just claims the initiative, swings with the shuttle, and there's going to be no answer to space. And with both players scooping up, I believe that's going to be game 1 to Boris on Gar Saxon command.
Yeah, that's game 1 to Boris there, taking down your second place finisher in Bilbao, setting up those big space units early that were very difficult to take out, and then that ambushing in Darth Vader. That is why ECL is such a good card. That is one of the best uses of Energy Conversion Lab I have seen in a Star Wars Unlimited game on a stream. Combine that with the Gar Saxon leader deploying, and you go, all right then, I think we've got what we need coming in here. And certainly that Darth Vader, a lot of the time we see ECL used a lot earlier in these games, trying to get that early momentum. What we saw from Boris there was take it a little bit easy, wait a little bit, ambush in the Darth Vader, which is, it's a 6 cost. It takes a little bit longer to get in, but it came in and took out 2 units immediately. And because it gets a shield, essentially what happens is you bring in Darth Vader, you take out 2 units.
Yes.
You put a shield on, you lose a shield, you've not lost anything. Essentially, you play Darth Vader, your opponent loses 2 units, and oh, by the way, next action phase, I've still got my Vader.
Yeah, that is the beauty of this card with the Energy Conversion Lab. Being at that 6 resource cost, it's just at the top end of what you can play with the Energy Conversion Lab epic action as well. But being able to get that 2-for-1, it's been something that has been a staple in Star Wars Unlimited for so long. That action economy, being able to steal an action, as it were, and be able to do 2 things in the one maneuver there. The Twilight of the Apprentice Darth Vader, a perfect combination to be able to close out game 1.
No, absolutely. I have the artwork for that on a t-shirt. It was on 2 t-shirts that was available at the Galactic Championships. Ben, I'm going to put you on the spot. What was the other shirt?
Oh, my goodness.
There's no reason you should know this. We've just got a second between games.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I have no idea,
It's a Mace Windu was the other one.
Okay.
Now, away from t-shirts, back to the game. This is the sideboarding phase. Now, essentially, both players, in addition to their regular deck, they can have 10 cards in their sideboard. and you have to play with your deck as is during game 1. But then when you get to game 2 and game 3, if you wish, you can then bring cards from the sideboard in. So you can essentially mix up your deck to try and fix some of your matchups. So you can make your matchups a bit better. Now, Sip actually lost in game 1, Ben. Can you see anything in the sideboard that might help a little bit here?
Disabling Fang Fighters.
Yeah.
A lot more copies of those.
I noticed that too.
Absolutely need to come into this deck. You've seen quite a lot of players remove the necessity for upgrade removal in the main deck and be able to come back into the sideboard with not as many pilot leaders running around in the format. You still got, obviously, the Darth Vader pilots and the Boba pilot. A little bit of Poe here and there, maybe, but it's not as prevalent as it was in, say, Jump to Lightspeed. So Disabling Fang Fighters coming in here will be a great answer to either just the shield tokens or those pilots that we've seen Boris already play in game 1. Sundari,
and the Craving Power, of course, which isn't a pilot, but is still a very good upgrade.
Yes, definitely. Sundari Peacekeeper as well. I'm always just a general fan of this card. Raid and Restore on a 3-resource ground unit that you can get out for cheaper with Han Solo leader action. Seems really, really good. Apart from that, nothing else really stands out to me. There's one card in here that is a change from Mikolaj's list in Bilbao. Won't spoil it just yet. If it comes up, we'll talk about it, but it's a really interesting card that has been brought into the side deck. As for Boris here, however, maybe something like a Hotshot Blaster just to take by surprise. Confiscates, you're not really worried about upgrades apart from maybe General's Blade, but we've not seen that so far from Mikolaj. Nothing else really stands out to me, so I wouldn't be surprised if Boris goes in to game 2 as he was in game 1, maybe with the confiscates just to prepare for any potential General's Blades, but for the most part, I think Boris's list is pretty streamlined and he's up a game, so he's got time.
Well, and that's the other thing. Generally speaking, if you won game 1, there are fewer changes that need to be made. There might be some obvious things where you look and you're like, oh, I'd really like that in this matchup. But it went well enough in game 1 that sideboarding is less of an immediate concern. So beginning of the game, you draw 6 cards. 4 of them go into your opening hand. 2 go down as resources. And yeah, it's awkward. So we see the client goes down. Darth Vader gets kept in hand for Boris, and I'm thinking that might well be his number 1 ECL target in this deck. We saw how much of a swing we had. Early Grogu, that's a phenomenal turn 1 play for Mikolaj there. We saw it in game 1. I think we're going to see it immediately here in game 2, using Han for the turn 1 Grogu. And then we see our old friend, Secretive Sage. You're going to see a lot of shields in Gar Saxon. We didn't see that many in game 1. I assure you, we're going to see plenty as we go along.
Yeah, the shield tokens become very, very important to Gar Saxon, as they have done pretty much since Gar Saxon got a little bit more popularity in the back end of set 2 in towards set 3. I remember trying to build Gar Saxon with Cunning and being a favor of a lot of the traditional upgrades, stack a load of things onto units, but turns out when you don't have to burn an action to do that, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it can be pretty good. Secretive Sage there, we are just throwing into the base. Of course, Grogu healed up and took the shield off Secretive Sage. We're going to see that a lot. We see Obi-Wan coming down here, not using Han's ability. So just coming in normally, but, you know, it's Obi-Wan. We're going to have a lot of Sentinel coming around. It's going to keep happening. And an Outer Rim Outlaws for Boris here? It's got a shield. Gar Saxon, a lot of the Gar Saxon deck is, it's got a shield, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's a 3-3 for 3 with a shield, like Secretive Sage is a 2-2 for 2 with a shield, but in Gar Saxon, it becomes a 4-3 because of the +1 power boost that you get if there is an upgrade on a unit. So very, very impactful for Boris early on here with the aggression as we took a little peek into Mikolaj's hand, and I did see the card that I was hinting at, which Mikolaj is thinking about resourcing away. It's Outflank that is the card from the sideboard.
Lets you attack with 2 units at once. We've seen it in the Rebel package, although with a different name. Rebel Assault, well, now we got it with Outflank, just attack with 2 units, 1 at a time. And again, it's that resource economy. It's letting you get 2 actions, 2 attacks in a row. The back and forth of Star Wars Unlimited, where you take an action, your opponent takes an action, that leads to a lot of annoying counterplays that can ruin your day. This is just the kind of card that can go, well, if I attack twice in a row, I can take out the card that you wanted to attack with, and then not only have I got 2 attacks in a row, but I've also taken away the next attack you were going to get. And certainly, if your opponent's starting to overwhelm the board, it can even things up quite nicely, man.
Yeah, it can also just be a surprise closing card as well, because it's just attack with 2 units. It doesn't specify that they have to go into an opponent's unit. So if you're 1 or 2 damage away and you're in your opponent's seat thinking, well, I know you've got no damage modifiers or anything like that in the deck, so I've got 1 more action maybe to try and answer the game-winning threat. Outflank can just take you by surprise and swoop up a game. Unfortunately, it does look like it's gone into the resources, but definitely a really intriguing and versatile card that's being tried out here.
And there's that General's Blade you mentioned earlier. Not a surprise to see that one popping up in these decks. They do come around quite a bit. Now, it does seem like we have got a decision made here. General's Blade goes on to Obi-Wan, beefing him up very nicely indeed. We've now got a 6-8, which is going to have Sentinel a lot of the time. That's pretty beefy.
But so will be this Lieutenant Childson as well, being able to, when played, reveal up to 4 Vigilance cards from your hand. And for each card revealed this way, you give an experience token to it. So revealing 2 cards here for Boris, the Pilot Iden and the Twilight of the Apprentice Darth Vader. And Mikolaj going, hang on a second, I wasn't prepared for this kind of information to be disclosed here, so I need to get my pen and paper out and take a note of what cards that Boris is working with here.
And kind of showing off that Vader. We saw what happened in game 1 with the ECL ambushing in the Vader. I think there's a pretty good chance it might be happening again here. So, and that's kind of important when you're as good a player as Sip is. You'll need to know, okay, that Darth Vader is going to ambush in at some point. You can be pretty sure it's going to ambush in. I need to be prepared. I know I lost 2 units last time. And the thing is, even something big and beefy like an Obi-Wan, you ambush in your Darth Vader, you give it a shield, you immediately defeat it because it's got a shield. It doesn't matter how big it is. Darth Vader with ambush essentially just gets a free defeat of any unit, no matter how big and bulky they might be.
Yes, certainly. But we are going to see the Obi-Wan attack straight into that Lieutenant Childson there. And with obviously that big HP boost that it's being granted, thanks to the General's Blade, will survive the attack for now. Unfortunately, Outer Rim Outlaw sees that and says, no, we're not keeping this free Sentinel around for much longer, or that General's Blade to give you that Jedi reduction. We're just going to immediately take care of it on the ground.
Yeah, we see a Disabling Fang Fighter come in. We see Boris take the initiative. And I think we might have seen a reaction to seeing the Darth Vader in hand. If you know that the Vader can ambush in very soon, you know you're not going to keep the Obi-Wan on the field. You know your opponent has an easy answer to your Obi-Wan Sentinel with all the boosted stats. So you might as well get some trades in now. You know you're not keeping it.
Yeah.
So rather than keep it, sometimes with a Sentinel, you want to keep it on the board, keep it nice and clean, and make your opponent have to go through it. If you know they've got a good answer, don't make them go through it because you know they're going to be able to go around it. Force the issue yourself.
Yeah, interesting as well there was Boris taking the initiative. Mikolaj does just decide to go into the Secretive Sage for a damage with the Grogu. So it's got some damage now set up onto it, ready to utilize its ping action to be able to transfer the damage over, maybe send it onto the Outer Rim Outlaws, maybe. We've got Energy Conversion Lab, and I do think we've got Poe Dameron in hand as well. So we could move the damage from Grogu onto the Outer Rim Outlaws, then ambush in the Poe Dameron to the Secretive Sage, and then using the on-attack action of Poe, discard 1 card, do the final 2 damage onto the Outer Rim Outlaws, and have a cleanup of the ground arena.
Absolutely could. Grogu's got a really deceptively high 6 HP here, which is how it can really take advantage of that skill that lets you move that damage from your units to your opponents. Although technically, you move it from any unit to any unit, But in reality, it's from yours to your opponents. I do like that cheeky disabling Fang Fighter played by Mikolaj last term, because it's kind of a case of, look, you don't have anything in the space arena, so I can just send free damage into your base from space every turn, unless you deal with it. But I'm stronger in the ground arena. My deck is much stronger in the ground. So if you then have to divert resources to try and get rid of my disabling Fang Fighter, I can build upon the ground, which is what I want to do anyway. But here comes Overwhelming Barrage.
Yeah.
That is going to take out a lot of, it's going to take out the Fang Fighter.
Yeah, Overwhelming Barrage, though, of course, one of the
Not
cards.
quite Grogu.
Yeah, one of the cards I highlighted at the start of the game that you get access to, obviously, as a Command and Villainy player. Overwhelming Barrage, such a strong card, has been so impactful since Spark of Rebellion. Just being able to get that spread damage across both arenas, boost up a unit as well to get some extra damage into the base like we've seen there, and make it really difficult for your opponents to try and answer it in an action.
Well, the good news is we did use Grogu to move damage onto that Secretive Sage, take that out. It only had 2 HP, so that was an easy defeat there. And then we saw the Han Solo leader being deployed, so that is going to be another option for Mikolaj to attack with. They are going to need to take this game to carry on this series. Right now, Boris is up 1-0. They have got 9 damage on Mikolaj's base. Boris has taken no damage whatsoever, and our second place finisher from Bilbao, our regional championship runner-up, in a little bit of trouble right now, but does have a decent board for the time being, except that Outer Rim Outlaws is looking a little bit. Oh, but we got a Cassian Andor ambushing in from the resources, and an R2 coming into play as well.
Yeah, Mikolaj getting a little bit of back on board stake here at the very least, and trying to get against the aggression that Boris has been able to generate with those strong first 2 action phase plays in the Secretive Sage and the Outer Rim Outlaws. They may look small just on their card printed stats, but with that extra power boost on the Gar Saxon leader unit and their leader action, and of course the 25 HP base that Mikolaj is starting with Energy Conversion Lab, those hit points on the base can go away very, very quickly. So Mikolaj having to take an action phase here to set things up, get ready to play a little bit more controlling before something like that Darth Vader does ambush in.
And here it does come ambushing in. Cassian Andor goes away. The leader unit goes away. And again, we didn't actually place the shield tokens, but once again, Darth Vader gets a shield. You put a shield on one of your opponent's units. You attack immediately. That takes out one of the units. But then the on-attack skill takes out the unit with a shield on, and Darth Vader takes damage back, but that just removes the shield. I also should... What Cassian Andor did was ambush in, but technically, by Star Wars Unlimited terminology, it wasn't actually ambush. It just comes in ready. The difference is ambush only allows you to attack a unit, whereas Cassian Andor is actually way better. You can also attack the base. It is an ambush, but maybe a cheeky... Maybe not ideal terminology. Speaking of not ideal, Wrecker coming to wreck stuff.
Yeah, and this is really nice as well. The 7/6 being able to go ahead and ambush in with overwhelm damage as well. Looks like we have defeated a friendly resource to deal 5 damage into that Darth Vader, which means I believe that it is going to be defeatable with the Grogu action as well. The final damage that is necessary will be able to take care of Vader.
Here we go. There goes Vader. Grogu takes out Vader. I'll let you picture that in your heads, ladies and gentlemen. That is a fun interaction, and here is when Mikolaj can hopefully start turning this game around. That was a good little sequence there. Weathered the Darth Vader, which is what you need to do. And I think the big difference here in between game 1 and game 2, in game 1, Mikolaj got that kind of early game ambush in. In game 2, saved it for one of the big boys. And we see Darth Vader ambushing in, Wrecker ambushing in. These are game-changing plays.
Yeah, and the biggest thing as well is that Mikolaj had knowledge of that Darth Vader still being in hand from the Lieutenant Chilton.
Yes.
That was played a couple of action phases ago. So I think, like you said and mentioned earlier, Ross, just being able to have that idea in their head and go, okay, I've got a couple of action phases that I need to work through to be able to get some kind of answer here. Found the Wrecker along the way, kept it in hand, ready to be able to set it up, as well with that little bit of Grogu damage that was done in with the Secretive Sage attack, just being able to make sure, okay, I've got some kind of damage on this unit that I'm going to be able to move on once the time is right and necessary. So really, really strong play here from a very accomplished player.
That's the downside. We're going to see it with Disclosure in the new Secrets of Power set. It's going to become a lot more prevalent. So we are into the regroup phase here. And I'm looking at the board, and it's very interesting. Both players have one decent attacker out there. We've got the Gar Saxon from Boris, although it's not quite as big as the Wrecker from Mikolaj. And everything else, you know, Grogu and R2-D2, they're interesting cards. They're very useful cards. They got in the deck for a reason. They don't pose a lot of offensive power. So we got 9 on one base, 7 on another. We're not really threatening game here from either player yet, because we've just not got a lot of potential damage on the board. Wrecker is going to start getting Mikolaj a lot closer very quickly, but we are not there yet in terms of one player having enough damage to start closing out this game.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of middling board state that's going on right now. But if Boris does want to start trying to push the tempo a little bit more, I do see, I think, Overwhelming Barrage in Boris's hand.
That will
so
help.
If he wants to go Overwhelming Barrage onto the Gar Saxon, he can be able to deal with the Wrecker and have the extra damage to deal onto the base. Instead, though, we're going to timely intervention in an Iden Versio, which is going to come into the ground arena. It will be a 5/3 with the shield. That will be enough to ambush into the Wrecker with the 1 damage that was still left over, and it's only going to cost the shield token to be able to do so. So really nice play there from Boris to actually go with the less resource play and be able to deal with the unit while keeping an extra 1 on board.
And that is one of the advantages of having these characters with shield. We saw it with Darth Vader in both games. We've now seen it with Iden Versio as well. Being able to take out one of your opponent's unit, lose a shield, but then still be sitting there with your full HP remaining, your power ready to go. Iden is a 4/3 on the ground, so there's 4 damage represented. We've then got Gar Saxon, which is another 4 damage represented. We're not game yet, but we're kind of game in 2 turns-ish, and that's if we don't keep building up our board. We see Poe coming down, though, which is always one of the best tricks that these heroic aggression decks have.
Yeah, and Poe is a little bit scarier on this board state as well now, thanks to that Grogu with the damage moving capability. It means that you can soften up either unit on the board here to be able to try and deal with it in some kind of fashion.
Well, you can get Iden if you do the 2 damage and then move with Grogu. You could take out Iden Versio right now.
Yeah, you can also do the same as well with the Gar Saxon. You just have to attack into the Gar Saxon as well with the Poe, and then do the 2 damage on top on the on attack ability to be able to take care of the final hit point that Gar Saxon leader unit does have. So you can answer 1 unit at one time. You just can't quite do both of them right now.
No, one attack. If Gar Saxon had 6, then you would totally be able to do it, but you're right, you're 1 away from being able to do that. But we're starting to build up a bit of a better board, and we're at this point in the game where both players are playing medium to big units and then kind of crossing their fingers that their opponent doesn't have an answer to it. But watch the base. We've only got 25 hit point bases here. Both players playing that energy conversion lab. Mikolaj already up to 13 with, 8 damage represented on the board. So we're kind of getting there. We do see the initiative being taken by Mikolaj there, and we're back to regroup.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned as well about the hit points that is on Mikolaj's base right now, because you just maybe saw it for a glimpse there as we went to Mikolaj's hand camera. He is holding on to a Gorilla attack pod. So if Boris does deal 2 more damage at minimum into Mikolaj's base, that Gorilla attack pod will be able to enter in ready with its when played ability, because a base has to have 15 or more damage on it, not just your opponent's. So we would be able to have that readied for 6, have the grit stacks as well available if we wanted to move some of that Grogu damage
I was going to say,
onto our own unit.
I said earlier that Grogu doesn't want to move to your own. Well, if they've got grit, that is a rather large exception. You can turn that into from a 4/6 into essentially a 6/4 pretty quickly with Grogu, get 6 damage, represented on your opponent's base. And that could be kind of fun as well, especially as it's coming in ready. And like we said with Cassian Andor, that is very different to having ambush. It means you can attack the base immediately, whereas ambush just lets you take out an opposing unit.
So Mikolaj here just making an extra decision on what to go ahead and resource here. Boris has resources, so is ready to go in that action phase, holding on to 8 resources as well, whereas Mikolaj is only going to have 7 going into this action phase, because remember, we defeated one from the Wrecker. It's not like Boris ramped or anything with something like resupply.
Nope.
We are going to go ahead and swing in with the Poe Dameron.
Now, we discarded 1 card. What do we choose? Is that going to be 2 cheeky damage? I imagine it is.
It looks like it is going to be, yes.
Well, where's the cheeky damage going, Ben?
Into the base, I think. So 6 damage, I think, is flying here into the base with the attack.
Okay.
And then the on-attack is just going to fly into the base as well. So I'm just trying to race here.
I mean, posed. My issue with the racing, and don't get me wrong, if Mikolaj has decided it's the way to go, they're a way better player than I am. I'm going to believe them. I worry that you don't have many big units out there on the board, and then your opponent has got, they're ahead on damage, and they've got better units on the board. So if, they've got more damage represented. So if you're not taking out the units, then that could lead to some issues. But having said that, we've got things like that Guerrilla Attack Pod potentially, which could come in, which could change stuff. We have options. Something's down here. Oh, no, not yet.
No, I think it's Boris's action here, which is just going to be able to burn a little bit, get that extra 4 damage into the base with that Iden Versio unit flying in. That's half of the damage represented right now already being dealt. So we're on 17 right now. The extra 4 puts us to 21. So with 4 away from being able to take game 2 and in turn the set. So something like an ambush in of the 7 resource Maul might be able to get us there if we have it.
It could, or, what we could just do is swing with Gar Saxon, take the initiative, and as long as one of those 2 units is around at the start of your next turn, you can guarantee having the first swing, and that will get you to exactly 25. I don't know if you really want to take the initiative when your opponent's got 7 open resources, because you don't know exactly what they're going to do. But certainly Grogu's not taking out a unit. You've already used Poe, so there's no cheeky damage coming down. And the good attacker has already been taken out. What are we seeing? Oh, we've got that Maul is in the hand. Now, it can't attack the base, but it does have ambush and it has overwhelm. And there's an R2 with only 2 HP remaining there, which will be 5 damage into the base, which combined with the Gar Saxon will be enough. So you need to swing with Gar Saxon first, so that your opponent doesn't take out Gar Saxon when you see what you're doing. Then you ambush in the Maul, and then you should be able to have enough to get over here. So I think you've got to go Gar Saxon first, because if you Maul first, your opponent can see what you're doing and then go after your leader unit.
Yeah, that definitely feels like that's the sequencing that we've got to go for here. I think there's also an overwhelming barrage that is in hand here for Boris to be able to just take out, say, the Poe Dameron, so you're not dealing with it in the next action phase.
But there is no next action phase. Maul's winning the game this turn. You don't need overwhelming barrage. Now your opponent, in theory, has got 4 remaining. You bring in the Maul, you attack into the R2-D2, you take it out. There's 5 damage left over. That goes into the base, and that is going to be the win. So here is action from Grogu.
It's an attack into the base.
Oh, it's an attack into the base. Show me the Maul. Ambush in the Maul. There we go. Damage onto the R2. Overwhelm over onto the base. And Boris the Brat is taking our round 1 feature match, taking down one of the best Star Wars Unlimited players in the world, showing us that maybe Gar Saxon is a lot better than we've been giving it credit for. And what better way to win than an ambush overwhelming with Maul?
Yeah, very, very well played there from Boris. I'm a massive fan and see that Gar Saxon is coming back into the format as well. It's a leader that I really enjoy playing with in Shadows of the Galaxy, but unfortunately sort of dipped away a little bit in the past couple of formats, in the past couple of sets, but now here with Energy Conversion Labs build, with that Darth Vader Twilight of the Apprentice as well. That was, I think, one of the biggest difference makers across both of the games. Yes, we saw Craving Power in Game 1 put in a lot of work, but the common denominator between Games 1 and 2 was a big Energy Conversion Lab epic action with the Darth Vader Twilight of the Apprentice.
I've never seen somebody, and I don't know, maybe I've not been paying enough attention. I didn't see Vader as an ECL target. And now I'm seeing it, and I'm like, I mean, Wrecker's a good ECL target. I don't think I've ever seen a better ECL target than Vader. You get the unit on the board, and essentially it doesn't come in shielded, and you get to take out 2 units, one of which can be literally any unit, no matter how big and imposing it is. And we saw in Game 2, after having seen the Vader come in Game 1, and knowing that it was in hand, we saw Sip play around it. You know, not leaving that Obi-Wan out there, making sure you get some value. Knew it was coming. Nothing they could do about it. They kind of prepared as well as they could, but there was no preparation to be done. And this kind of, as a caster, this makes me really happy, because one of my big things is when we start a tournament, I want to see someone who did really well at the previous event. Our winner from Bilbao was not here, so we take our regional runner-up, Sip. Phenomenal player, had a big finishes. Everyone in the community knows how phenomenal this player is. And there's always that worry of, what if we put them on round 1 and we don't get that competitive a game? Because it's really hard to pick a competitive game in round 1, because there's a lot of players who are going to bring decks that aren't really working. We don't really know. And yet we get that round 1 with Gar Saxon and Darth Vader and all of that. And that was a fun round 1. And now, if you're Sip, you're thinking, well, hang on a second. I got second in Bilbao. I know I'm one of the best players in the world. I've got to start this comeback trail now. Sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be a real interesting watch to see how well that Sip is able to come back from this. Obviously, a very, very seasoned player, will have been in situations like this, I'm sure, throughout their Star Wars Unlimited career.
Yeah.
But whether they will have been in this sort of position in these kinds of tournaments, that's going to be interesting to see how his reaction will be. We know that he's got pedigree. Obviously, you mentioned the runner-up at the Bilbao Regional Championship, was also top 4 in the Liverpool sector qualifier in season 0 during the Django Fett format. We were there and ended up losing to Bosk Vigilance, which took the whole tournament by surprise and winning under the hands of Alistair Grant. But now it's going to be about whether Sip can take people by surprise and say, you know what? I'm gonna submarine this tournament, and I'm gonna make my way into top 32 after an 0-1 start.
There is an element, as weird as it sounds, there can be a real advantage to losing round 1. I've played enough tournaments and enough card games to know this. The problem with winning is that you keep playing against other people that are winning. You're 1-0, you play a 1-0. You're 2-0, you play a 2-0. You're 4-0, you play a 4-0. Your reward when you keep winning is playing progressively harder matchups. But now Sip's going to be playing an 0-1. And then if they win a 1-1, and then if they win a 2-1. So they are going to have, in theory, a slightly easier route, because they're not going to be playing those kind of undefeated players, and there can be an advantage to that. Obviously, you don't want to take the round 1 loss. I'm just saying there is a little bit of a silver lining. And also, I feel very vindicated. I'm rocking my Maul pin. I rocked it in Bilbao, almost changed it this morning, and I went, no. I still believe in Maul. Now, I will tell you, there is not there's 2 people in the room who are playing the leader. There are 2 Maul leaders in the room. I checked a minute ago. But if nothing else, we just saw Maul totally win game 1 on stream. So I feel vindicated. No Revan, though.
No
Revan.
No Revan. Any Mono Anakin? We didn't check that earlier, which is a very, very different leader that I don't think many people have really tried to brew with outside of something like Draft, potentially. But it is an interesting one to try and play around, especially with something like the Anakin Champion of Mortis. You're already getting an easy outlet for villainy cards to be able to be played. So it's about whether that single aspect is a good enough trade-off for an easier route into something like Champion Immortus Anakin.
No, absolutely. There is an Admiral Trench in the room. We had that on
Ooh.
stream in the Lille regional in Season 0. That was a weird deck that I don't think anyone was really expecting, but it was there and it was a thing, and that was fun. So there are some interesting decks around out there, and obviously, you know, we haven't got exact deck stats right now, but I can tell you out of 520 players, something like 134 of them are playing that Han 2 that we saw from SIP in round 1. There's 30-odd Han Audacious Smuggler. There are a lot of Cad Bane out there, as you might expect. Only 29 Mother Tolzin last time I checked, which it won Galactics. It won the only regional we've had since Galactics. What is it going to take for people to realize that Mother Townsend is a proper top-tier deck? I know after the Galactic Championships, people went, well, you know, Force Throw is suspended. The deck isn't as good as it was. It just won the only regional championship we've had since Galactics. Sasan went and proved to us in Bilbao that it is still a phenomenal deck. So I don't want to hear any of this. Well, they suspended. No! It won the regional. 29 players are playing it, Ben. That is disrespectful to Mother Towels. In there, I said it.
You know what it's just got to do? It's just got to win the sector as well.
I
It's
mean,
just got to do a three-peat.
I really want it to win the sector. And then in the closing ceremony, you are going to hear the phrase from me, what will it take for you guys to see how good Mother Towson is? Or words to that effect, but shouted much louder. Because seriously, that is a deck that just keeps winning. And it is massively underrepresented. 134 Han 2. And again, these are not final numbers. This is what I saw a little while before the tournament started. But somewhere in the region of 134 Han 2 and 29 Mother Towson.
Yeah, it's a very, very big disparity between the two. Of course, that statistic doesn't quite take into account the variations in base.
You are correct.
That those are paired with. Obviously, we've seen the Energy Conversion Lab build. The Force Vigilance base build is still running around. There's even maybe some other builds that we haven't quite seen or just yet that are maybe sneaking under the radar as well. Maybe something like a 30 HP Vigilance, a 30 HP Command, something like that. Maybe even just abandoning those two aspects completely and going, you know what? Cunning is where it's at, but still 130 plus players that are committed to this leader says a lot about where players' mindsets are at.
Absolutely. You had me right until you mentioned cunning. And that's the point where you lost me just a little bit there, Ben. Although, I mean, if anyone wants to bring Han Solo cunning, that would be kind of fun. You know, we were chatting to some players before we started here, and I won't ruin any of the surprise, but, you know, somebody was like, I'm playing this leader, and I'm like, okay. It's fallen off a little bit, but I get it. And then they told me the base they were playing it with, and I'm just like, no, that's not the combo. But, you know, they explained it to us. It sounded kind of fun. And, you know, if they start having a good tournament, we'll get them on the stream, and you can see what we were talking about.
Yeah, certainly so. We've got so much action to come here across the entire weekend from Munich in this Star Wars Unlimited sector qualifier. So do not go anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to have round 2. And you're not going to want to miss it. So stay tuned.
very Force-centric decks, the Obi-Wan especially. So I think we are going to be okay, having Sentinel quite a bit. That's gone in at the bottom, Ben. I cannot quite see what it is. It's hidden.
Tolzen's Assassin.
Oh, Tolzen's Assassin, that's a well good card.
It's a very, very good card, and it's a big problem as well for Fita here, because here being able to put the -3/-3 onto the Millennium Falcon means that that Falcon is essentially hitting for no damage. So only one more -1/-1 will be able to defeat that Millennium Falcon, and because we have Force units to generate the token here
we go.
We swing with the Karis, generate the Force token, immediately spend it on the Tolzen leader action, remove the Falcon, and hit in for big damage.
And then we get Acolyte of the Beyond there trading in with the Obi-Wan Sentinel. But the difference is Xavier here has 3 units on the board. Minus Tolzen's Assassin gives a -3/-3. Tolzen gives a -1/-1. In comes Plo Koon here, however, taking out the Director Krennic.
Yeah, nice little bit of value that Fita is able to take away from Xavier here with the ambush. Won't have the coordinate, of course. No 2 extra units to be able to activate that raid 3. But unfortunately, wipe out the Plo Koon, and we're back to square one here, really. For Fita, Obi-Wan leader unit is able to deploy here, but we have power of the dark side to immediately out the leader deployment, and Fita in a very bad situation here.
Yeah, that is a perfect time to use power of the dark side. Your opponent gets to choose which unit gets defeated, but if there's only one, there is no choice. Mother Talzin gets deployed, puts some more damage down, and this is where Xavier potentially can start pulling away here. Deploys the Mother Talzin, immediately swings into base. There's now 4 units sitting there swinging for Xavier, and Fita has no units on the board. The leader's already deployed and been defeated, so basically Xavier here is getting potentially 4 free swings, depending on what Fita manages to do. Now, we did see a Plo Koon ambush last turn. That was fun. But we're going to need to see some more Millennium Falcon Enters play ready. What are we oohing there, Ben?
It's Cunning is back in the format here. We are exhausting 2 units with the Tolzen's Assassin and the leader here as well, because importantly, it doesn't specify non-leader. And then being able to, I think, discard a random card out of hand here, or bounce. It was a bounce, I think, instead, with the sending a 4 or less power unit to its owner's hand.
Yes.
We have the Karis now, though, getting a Hotshot Blaster, being able to attack with it as soon as it goes ahead and swings in. So good tempo turn there for Fita at the very least. Stems the flow of the attacks a little bit, but it's still a similar board state. The ground unit is way too overwhelming.
That's what I'm worried about. You played Cunning out of Aspect. You had to pay the Aspect penalty, so it's a 6 cost, not a 4 cost. And your opponent has still got 3 units on the board. Now, Keller and Beck comes down. We like Keller and Beck. When played, you get to top 7 cards of your deck and play a unit cheaper. This is the kind of thing you need to do if you're Fita here. This is a 2-for-1, and a Sentinel Obi-Wan is about the best hit you can get right now, because now it is protecting, used Cunning last turn to protect against some swings. Now we've got the Sentinel Obi-Wan. It feels like kind of a cat on a screen door hanging on, but you are hanging on for now against these attacks.
Unfortunately, though, for Fita, I do think I spotted a copy of Force Lightning in Xavier's hand here. So even if he doesn't want to defeat that unit, he is going to be able to just do 1 resource to be able to strip the Sentinel away from the Obi-Wan Kenobi and just apply big damage pressure again into the base here. Of course, we could also just spend the extra resources. We do control a Force unit, so we can pay what would have to be 3 extra resources to burn the Obi-Wan Kenobi, or 2, and then the attack with the Tolzen leader unit to -1/-1 and deal with the rest. But we've got the resources. We might as well just burn it.
I mean, yeah, and potentially there, if you combine with some attacks as well, we could do a little bit of a cheeky board wipe. You are significantly up on base damage. Your opponent's got 11. You've only got 3. You've been keeping a better board. Here comes a Fallen Lightsaber. +3/+3. Oh, yeah, and you deal 1 damage to each ground unit the defending player controls. This could actually be kind of cheeky because I would put Kellerin back down to a 6 and Obi-Wan down to a 4, which would make the Force Lightning maths a lot easier for either of those units if that's the route you wanted to go.
Well, we do see an experience token is now going to be given to the Kellerin Beck here, so it is going to make that maths a little bit more difficult.
Boo.
Force Lightning is just going to go ahead and get utilized on the Obi-Wan Kenobi. We want to put all of this Tolzien damage, 6 of it, thanks to the boost of the Fallen Lightsaber, into either the base
No, it's going
or
into
just to
Kellerin Beck.
Kellerin.
Now, I love this. And again, that 1 damage into the Obi-Wan from the Fallen... Oh, no, we did just Force Lightning. It's fine.
Yeah.
But my point is, we managed to board wipe. And this is what Xavier is doing so beautifully this game. It is playing keep away. And then when your opponent's got no units, I'll swing with whatever I've got. But they're doing a great job of completely keeping Vita's board clear so that they can then just... And they're only really swinging when there's no units down, but it's adding up. We're already up to 18. Game, I believe, is now represented on board. We need 10.
Yes, it is. Across the Mother Tolzien leader unit and the Tolzien's assassin, game is represented in 2 actions right now.
So we're looking in a very nice position to potentially finishing out this game, and we are seeing the power of Mother Tolzien, and it's everything we've come to expect. It is lowering power combined with a little bit of cheeky damage, and you're struggling to keep cards on the board. That's Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah, Ahsoka Tano okay here. Does force a discard out of hand. If it's a unit that they discard, then it is going to be a unit that is going to be able to be exhausted here by Vita. So trying to, again, slow things down a little bit. We will get a unit. So Tolzien leader is going to get exhausted for this phase.
And that should buy at least 1 more action phase that we can use to potentially finish out the game later.
Oh, no.
We do see another unit coming down here, but not for very long. Waylay gets right rid of it.
Yeah, bouncing the sun back into the hand. The Force is with us, so each friendly unit is going to be getting that +2 boost residually from the sun's ability. But there's no Sentinel on the board, so we can just freely go ahead and swing into the base here and apply more pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. We can just get some swinging coming in quite nicely. We're getting more into the base there from that Karis. We are not at game yet, but we're pretty close, Ben. There's 27 sitting there currently on Vita's base. 1 attack from anything, 1 damage from anywhere. You've got 25 remaining. I don't want to speak too soon here, Ben. I think this might be Xavier's game. So we're going to see an action from Vita. I don't think there's anything they can do. Maybe a Sentinel can buy a little bit of time. It is a second cunning.
Okay.
Wait, can we rest 2 units and bounce a unit?
Yeah, we
can. Now we're talking.
Okay, so Vita again is going to be able to give himself an extra potential action phase here on this board state. But if Xavier just has maybe something like a ready unit with another hot shot blaster, things could be troublesome.
It's an Anakin, Champion of Mortis. That is going to get the -3/-3 onto Ahsoka. Not enough to actually take it out. But that cunning play was fun. It was a nice play.
Oh wow!
But the Sentinel Obi-Wan doesn't really matter this turn. That's that we needed, because now Sentinel's not going to be there at the start of next turn. Sentinel's turned off. Xavier can swing with anything at the start of his turn, and that is going to be game 1 for Xavier. Obi-Wan only has Sentinel when you play a Force unit. By taking the initiative, Xavier says, we'll start the next action phase. You're not going to have Sentinel. So we are going to go through the regroup phase here, but then Xavier can just swing with, it doesn't matter, literally anything they want, Ben, and then that will be game 1.
Yeah, really, really nice work here from Xavier, especially with the opportunity to just go ahead and claim the initiative here.
And
Xavier
there's the
realizing
swing with Anakin, and there is game 1 for Xavier. We had to wait. I was trying to wait. I was waiting. Okay, fine. They're going for the regroup phase. But then we see the attack. Game 1 for Xavier. Really nice play there. Taking the initiative, saying, well, I'm going to have a swing where you don't have Sentinel, mate. And that is the one downside of that Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, and it's very important as well. There's a couple of really cool things that we can pick apart about that game in game one there. First and foremost, from Xavier, just the knowledge and the wherewithal about when it's correct to take the initiative, even if you've got active and ready resources still. It's a real art form that you have to be able to put your brain into when you're playing Star Wars Unlimited, because there is a tendency to go, well, I've got these ready resources, let me use them. But if you've got an outlet to win the game, if you go first in the next action phase, you've got to take it where it counts. Conversely as well, for Fita on the Obi-Wan Kenobi, we saw there a big downside of these Force-reliant leaders. If you don't have the Force token early on, your leader just does nothing, which Xavier was able to do because he had those Force tokens being able to be generated early. Fita didn't get the Force token till the Obi-Wan leader unit deployed, till action phase resource 5. So took a lot of time for Fita to really get online, and by that point, Xavier was just too far ahead.
Unfortunately, was just too far ahead at that point. You're absolutely right. Excuse me, the sideboarding phase at the end of the game, players have their 10-card sideboard, and you have to start every match, game one, with the same 50-card deck. But then after game one, and if you want after game two, you have the opportunity to swap cards in from your sideboard to transform your deck, make the matchup a little bit better. So, I mean, have a little bit of a look there, Ben. Is there anything you're seeing from either player in their sideboards that could make a little bit of a difference?
Yeah, Qui-Gon Jinn is a potential option here for Fita. We saw him get up to that 7 resource level and play down Caloran Beck, which fetched out Obi-Wan Kenobi Sentinel, which was a good play. But the Qui-Gon Jinn here could be really, really interesting. If you get maybe a little bit of damage early on to the Mother Tolzin leader unit, if it has a fallen lightsaber, or indeed if Tolzin doesn't have a fallen lightsaber at all, you can ambush the Qui-Gon into the Tolzin and be able to deal with it, and then trigger the when defeated ability to be able to send a ground unit on the board either to the top or bottom of the deck. So could really put Xavier back in those later game stages. Obviously also generates the Force token with it being a Force unit.
Which helps.
Definitely helps. One thing that's also going to help, I think, is going to be Outmaneuver. It's a card that I think that I was sort of had in the back of my mind before we saw the Cunning come out to be a real answer to that scary board state. We are already into game 2, though, so we'll see what has come in for the sideboards, if anything. Gungi for Fita and that Acolyte for Xavier.
Yeah, both those lovely play promo versions of them with the different borders, different artwork. Absolutely lovely. So that is quite good, because that Gungi there, it's a Force unit. 2/5 to be fair. 2 cost 2/5 is crazy good. But it also means you can start. And here we've already generated the Force of Fita there, which is awesome. Acolyte of the Beyond, of course, can do the same thing for Xavier here, which is exactly happening. So pretty much, you know, side by side, but we get that Sentinel Obi-Wan coming down early. And it's not the same, but it is that card you picked out. It's that Merrin.
Yeah, Merrin, a really, really fun card here. So now we'll get to see about whether Xavier is playing or has brought in from the sideboard any heroism cards to be able to fuel into that Champion of Mortis Anakin for later on in the game. Very, very strong card. Will also be able to help maybe deal with this Obi-Wan Kenobi, which has now got an experience token thanks to the Obi-Wan leader action.
Yeah, and building up that Sentinel, very nice indeed. Of course, you cannot stack them. You can only put an experience token on where one doesn't already have, but you can at least get one on there to give it that little bit of extra bulk. We didn't see the experience token go on it last term, but I think that Sentinel could make a difference. The big thing for Fita here is going to be to try and prevent what happened last game, where your opponent just keeps your board empty. And oh, we've got something we didn't see back in game 1. It's that Darth Tyrannus here, shielded, and if the Force is with you, and it is, ambush.
Yeah, really, really nice card here. Means that Xavier could have had the pick of either going into the Obi-Wan or the Gungi if he liked, but the Obi-Wan is the correct play here. Get it set up for something like some Tolzon's Assassins plays later on, be able to set up for the -1s. Instead, though...
Maz Kanata. This is one of the cards I was talking about. You don't see this very often at all. Basically, when you play, you can attack the Force unit and it gets +2 power. So using that on the Obi-Wan to take out the Merrin there. Very fun little play.
And I love the choice of taking the Merrin out as well, as we've been talking about the potential threat of it being just an easy outlet to send away a heroism card. You've already seen an Anakin Champion Immortus in game 1, so you know that it's there and that it's a threat in the deck. Let's just get rid of that easy discard outlet and that power of 2 away from the board early on. Really, really nice work there from Fita, who's already looking a lot more stable here in game 2 than he was in the early stages of game 1.
No, absolutely. Doing a lot better early on here, which is good to see. We've got the Force token being generated. We've got units staying on the board, playing a bit of keep away themselves, which is quite nice. Getting rid of that Merrin already. But that Darth Tyrannus, that is going to be a little bit of an issue. You know, it's a 4/3. It's doing a bunch of damage. We do see just a trade, though, there with the Gungi saying, look, I know that I saw in game 1, I am better at board control than you. Let's just go for the board control. The base damage, as we saw, will take care of itself if you can play control well enough.
Yeah, and the last thing that you want the Gungi to do is start picking up something like a General's Blade and make it a lot harder to remove later down the line with the minus effects or with any extra Darth Tyrannus ambushes as well. So let's just deal with it straight away and get it off the board. As Xavier now turning their attention to this Maz Kanata, which has been boosted by an Obi-Wan experience token, sticking a -1/-1 reduction onto it from the Tolzon leader action. Now she's deployed another -1/-1 awaiting as soon as the leader attacks.
And then the question is, do you want to try and take out the Maz Kanata here? You would be able to take it out while, still surviving all the minuses, etc. And there is an argument that then you've done kind of what you want to do. Now, of course, Mother Tolzon only hits for 3. Maz has 4, but then the -1 that should sort the maths out quite perfectly. But now we got an Obi-Wan leader to deal with as well is the issue. Or maybe we don't because we've got Force Lightning.
Force Lightning, an immediate answer to the leader unit deployment. And Fita has not had the opportunity to get any kind of on-board viability from this Obi-Wan leader unit. Both game 1 and 2, Xavier has been able to have the answer to it in the exact same action phase. And Fita replacing the Gungi now down onto the board. It's okay, but it's not quite the consistent pressure that the Obi-Wan could have potentially been being able to generate.
Nah, Gungi's a great turn 1 play. It's a 2-cost character, 2-cost unit. You have 2 resources in the early game, right? That's what you want to do. When you're on your 6-7 resource term, it's just an okay unit, but you really want to be playing bigger stuff down. We did see a swing into the base set and then a Millennium Falcon, which is going to come in ready. So, that could do some fun stuff.
Yeah, and quite nice as well here, seeing that the Force Lightning has already been burned in this action phase, means that it's very unlikely with 1 resource ready and the Mother Tolzon leader that it's going to be able to be dealt with in this action phase. So now's the time to use it, get some easy free damage into the space arena while we can, and force Xavier to have that answer of something like Tolzon's Assassin or another Force Lightning later on in the game.
And we did see, as predicted, the Mother Tolzon did go and take out Maz Kanata. Only took 2 damage back because of the -1/-1 on attack. So that was quite nice. We're doing board clearing again, but you're right. The Mother Tolzon decks do not really play in space. There's a couple of bigger units, not really. So you want to try and take out that Millennium Falcon, ideally with other stuff like, this could help.
Yeah, that Tolzon's Assassin, speak it into existence, the -3/-3, just like it did in game 1, immediately reducing it down to a 0/1 on board right now. And as soon as that Mother Tolzon leader unit does go ahead and swing in, that will be the remaining reduction that will be able to take out the Millennium Falcon. and means that Fita is going ahead and dealing with one less resource in this action phase as well, because he paid for the Falcon tax to keep it around.
He paid for the Falcon tax and got nothing back from it. The 4 HP, so good there between Talzin's Assassin and Mother Talzin herself. It's so good. If somebody's got 4 HP, you're like, I can deal with that. But the fact that you bring it down to 0 power in the meantime, so can't do anything. But here comes Traitorous. Now, this is one which I didn't get a chance to say. This is a sideboard card. I thought it might come out. Especially, it's really good against things that have got upgrades on. You get to steal the upgrade. But it turns out it's kind of irrelevant because it's already gone.
Yep, but it's trading into the Tolzien leader unit, which is exactly what you'd want in this situation. If you're not keeping around some kind of like value engine piece in any stretch of the imagination, not something like a Merin or Secretive Sage, if it's still somehow got the shield, Grand Inquisitor maybe as well, let's just do the next best thing. Let's just take something that's already very, very damaged, but use it to be able to take out a key piece on our opponent's side of the board here. So nice use of the Traitorous there to make it so that leader units are dealt with, and now L337 is coming out from the resources with the smuggle mechanic and has that shield token.
Which is nice, but Anakin, Champion of Mortis, comes down, immediately takes out the L337. Sorry about that. Millennium Falcon comes back from Fita here, but the problem is it didn't really do much before, and I mean, maybe there's not another Talzin Assassin to hurt it. Maybe they're going to be able to get damage. The issue is we're back to where we were in game 1. We got Anakin, Champion of Mortis, Talzin Assassin, Karis, all there on Xavier's side of the board. And sure, Fita's got that Millennium Falcon, which is going to be a bit of a pain. But we've already managed to give it a -1/-1. But it's also got an experience token. If we can get rid of that Falcon, it feels like we're in a good position with Xavier, even though we're behind on base damage.
Yeah, there is another Anakin Champion of Mortis that's been drawn into hand there, but I don't think a Heroism card is in the discard right now. So it would only be the first instance of -3/-3 and not the second. So we wouldn't be able to immediately deal with it. And we wouldn't be able to deal with it with the combination of the Tolzien leader unit as well because of that experience token. So many people have said before as well in Star Wars Unlimited, but that 5 HP or higher break point can be so make or break for so many decks, especially when it comes to the reduction math of Mother Tolzien.
Well, I just made a big point of saying how 4 HP is such a great number to hit with his Mother Tolzien deck. 5 HP, that's different. That's not the same. Now, we do see Qui-Gon coming down here, able to just immediately get rid of it was a Talzin Assassin. Yeah. And that's another big unit on the board. Can we take it out with Talzin Assassin? Yes, we could. And I think we probably have to.
Yeah, well, this is a card that I highlighted in the sideboarding process, primarily to answer something like a Tolzien leader unit if it stuck around for too long. But here right now, even if it does get defeated,
it's taking the Anakin with it.
Yeah, it's going to be able to bounce something away, which means, yes, you're going to know it's either going to be on the top of the deck or on the bottom, because importantly, while you get to choose what goes, the owner of the card gets to choose where it goes. So the owner chooses whether it goes on top or whether it goes away onto the bottom of the deck. It's still pressure. And it's still 7 power that Xavier is facing down. And on 16 damage, can't really afford to face down.
You kind of need to get rid of it. You've got too much damage on the board to leave a 7 power unit there, especially with the Falcon hitting from space as well. But you don't really want to lose your Anakin. And this is a decision I think you have to. You can't leave a 7 power Qui-Gon on the board.
Yeah, especially because with the way that we're represented right now, with Fita not having used the Obi-Wan action, if you use Obi-Wan action on Qui-Gon, that would be perfect maths
it would.
To be able to deal with the base and take game 2. Alternatively, it's Hotshot Blaster from resources to do the same thing. So there's a couple of different options for Fita here if this Qui-Gon Jinn is able to stick around. So Xavier, like you say, has to get rid of it.
I don't love it because you're going to lose your Anakin, but you have to. You've got to trade into it. unless we got another option.
Ooh, no disintegrations is coming down here onto the board. This was a card that took off in big prominence during the Bilbao weekend from Sasanabashi's winning deck, dealing damage to a non-leader unit equal to 1 less than its remaining HP.
But my biggest issue with this is that you've already used your Mother Tolls in. If you don't, and here is the trade we said about the Qui-Gon. The Obi-Wan goes away. And I tell you what, Ben, you were right about one thing.
Yeah?
The negotiations were short.
Amazing.
I've been waiting, so I'm like, do it so I can do it. Come on.
Oh, that was perfect. That was absolutely perfect. As we see that the Anakin is going to go to the bottom of the deck here.
And we've got a complete board wipe on both sides at this point. So both players now in an awkward position whereby they've got nothing on the board, and this is where Theta's 6 extra damage on the base can come in absolutely crucial. Does anyone have something they can use to bring in immediately? Now, if there's any more Qui-Gon does have ambush, so if your opponent plays a unit and then you can ambush in Qui-Gon to take care of it, that could be a fun little interaction.
Could be nice, but I don't think I see any units in Theta's
Doesn't
hand.
matter, you got Waylay. Waylay's better, Waylay's cheaper. Oh, right, sorry. I meant better if you can combine it with playing a unit.
Yeah.
I didn't mean if that's literally the only thing you do during your turn.
Yeah, that was the exact point that I was making. I'm pretty sure that Theta's hand is purely just events here, but finally we do trio a unit. It is the Maz Kanata.
And Owen last. Those are not the units we want. At this point in the game where we're supposed to be in the end game, I know who I want to see fighting, Owen Lars and Maz Kanata, which, I don't know, I'd love to see that in a film. That would be a fight I would watch and enjoy. But we do see a secretive Sage. I mean, Maz by far, Maz is the biggest unit on the board right now in terms of damage. But it is worth remembering, Owen does have Restore too.
Yes, which was huge in the grand final of Bilbao. And now he's going to be even bigger
but
here.
Anakin comes in, and Anakin against Maz Kanata, not, unfortunately, a very fair fight. But that experience token should save her, right?
Yes, it will save her with the -3/-3. Maz does have 4 HP on base stats already, so would have been saved already from Anakin, but is importantly out of Tolls in range. That's the biggest thing here, because again, we don't have a heroism card in the discard pile right now. We don't have the double instance, so we wouldn't be able to deal with it. Here's another Cunning, though.
Cunning out of aspect, bouncing 1 unit, and then resting another 2. We saw this twice in game 1. We've seen it in game 2. Dealing with 3 units. Now, Force Lightning comes down, which seems a little bit overkill for Maz Kanata, but that was what was being done. L337 comes down with a shield. We have picked up the pace, but it seems like we've got a Karis here.
And another Owen Lars that's been bringing down as well after it was bounced back from the Cunning. And now Theta is starting to find a few more units into hand here. The problem is Xavier is finding a lot more and outspeeding Theta here right now. Is that a resupply that's been brought into hand? No, it's Take Captive, which is in hand, which is a really interesting inclusion. But you've not really got the unit on board to be able to help you. Qui-Gon, however, is going to be a big help. Ambushes in to the Anakin Skywalker Champion of Mortis. The when defeated will trigger here and will bounce the Karis onto the bottom of the deck.
And this is what I was saying a second ago about bringing in that Qui-Gon after your opponent started to get some units down. It's a 2-for-1 trade. It is a very good trade to make. But there's another Anakin Champion of Mortis. That'll take out the L337. Who cares about shields when you're just lowering HP down to 0? And now it looks like we're back in game 1 territory here, where Xavier's got a much better board established with the Anakin.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no,
No!
no. Oh, that's ruined it. It's going on the secretive sage instead. This is arm to the teeth, I believe.
Yes, arm to the teeth, which in fairness is going to give +2 power to the Owen Lars. So it is going to attack in and deal some damage on this action phase here on attack. But yeah, a big shame that that wasn't attached onto Owen itself here. Is going to get the restore trigger going on as well on attack, which we did hint towards when we saw Owen last action phase. And now Xavier is in a position where they have well and truly stabilized. It looked scary for a couple of actions ago,
really did.
but now Xavier is well in the driver's seat. Level on damage totals, but not on the ground arena.
No, and that's the thing. We're now even at 17 damage on each base, but you have a look at Xavier's board, and you've got so much going on here. Answer the Teeth, incidentally, did kind of have to go onto the secretive sage because of the shield, but Waylay has gotten rid of that. That's actually gone. But time you start swinging with the Anakin Champion of Mortis, and then even though you're not dealing damage, you are restoring. But maybe is that Keller and Beck?
No, it's just a Jedi Consular.
Oh, it is Jedi Consular. That's not as good.
It's not going to do anything here right now on 1/4 that you can use the Force with and get a 2 resource reduction on a unit in hand with. And when Devastator comes down as well, to be able to deal a bunch of indirect damage that you can assign here as well. It's only 4, but the 9 power in the space arena means Fita is essentially on a 1 action clock in both the ground and the space arena if there's any kind of damage modifier for Anakin Champion of Mortis.
Yeah, we are on 26 here. Anything attacking next phase will end the game. You can't Sentinel both arenas at once. If you even like the Obi-Wan Sentinel, which we've seen so much, will not be enough here. So it seems like we're going to have 1 action from Fita. What's it going to be? This is probably your last action, but it's a fist bump, and Xavier is going to take this 2-0. Mother Talzin can't stop winning, and Xavier gets to 2-0 at the Munich sector qualifier.
Yeah, really, really cool game there. Unfortunate for Fita's point of view that in game 1, we didn't really get to see his engine really running too much. But game 2 was quite competitive there. Got the early Force outlet with the Gungi, was able to generate some of that availability. No Obi-Wan leader unit sticking around was unfortunate from Fita's point of view. Clawed back in with the Qui-Gon Jinns that came in with the sideboard.
They were great.
They were big inclusions, but unfortunately, as it seems it's always been in the Legends of the Force era, Mother Talzin just finds a way.
Such a good leader. I think it's wild that we can say this with a straight face, but one of the most underrated leaders we've ever seen. How it's underrated, and don't get me wrong, right? When we went into Bilbao, I got it. Yes, it won Galactics, but then we can also say, yeah, but that Force throw suspension really did do a number on these Force aggression decks. So I kind of understand. But then when it went in Bilbao, the arguments are over. It is one of, if not the best deck in the format. And the thing to remember about Mother Talzin is it's underrepresented in terms of player numbers. One of the reasons you see so much Han 2 is because all the top players are picking it. Like, genuinely, we started looking through well-known players, and we're like, oh, they're playing Han 2. They're playing Han 2. They're playing Han 2. And there's like 134 people. Mother Talzin is being played by fewer people, and it's not being picked up by what we consider to be, a lot of the best players, and it's still doing what it does.
Yeah, it's just such a really good versatile deck because it can play that control style that Vigilance Villainy is known for with all the reductions inherently. You've obviously got the power of the dark sides in here, Force Lightnings, the no disintegrations as well, but can also be a little bit aggressive in its scope. If you go with an aggressive Secretive Sage or Night Sister Warrior on action phase 1, then go into something like the Merrin, be able to just fling some stuff away to be able to deal with a little bit of the stuff that your opponent is playing down, then into cards like Tyrannus, Champs and Dullars if you're in a ramp matchup and you want to match that ramp, and also, by the way, have a 5 power unit on the board at the 4 resource action phase. phase, it can be sneakily quick at getting some damage onto the base. And then when you cap it off with things like the Anakin Champion of Mortis, with the Devastator as well,
Oh, yeah.
with copies of the Sun that we're seeing being brought into
That's a
the
cool
lists
card.
now, it is a lot of damage that gets put onto bases very quickly.
It absolutely is. So just to, just to build on what I said a second ago, I know there's a lot of good players who are playing Mother Towers. What I mean is, like, we're early on in Star Wars Unlimited. We didn't have that many big tournaments last season, and we're only kind of 4 in this season. So we can kind of look at regional winners, sector winners. And the people, who have won these big tournaments in the past, we sit down and starting a new tournament, they're not choosing Mother Townsend. They are gravitating towards decks like Han 2, which are the consensus best decks. And I'm just saying, I think Mother Townsend is being slept on in that regard. Sasan is a player, who hadn't won a sector or regional before, came to Bilbao, took down that regional with that Mother Townsend, and now has made their name as one of the top players in the game. I think we're going to see more of this moving forward. I cannot believe there are so few players and so few known players in terms of people with that history of success in a very, early game who aren't playing Mother Townsend.
Yeah.
How much more does it need to prove, Ben?
Well, I'll be interested to see as well here if we can take a look at some of the early standings. Obviously, these are early standings
They
at the
are
end of round 1, so some things are going to jump out a little bit more than others may be to see exactly what else is in and around. We're looking around the 97s to down to 128. We're seeing a couple more Han Solo worth the risk. Sebastian Bukowski, who was there, who is a very well-known player around the European circuit, but look at these top decks in these early stages. You've got some of those Tolzens that are in there. You've obviously got the Han Solos. You've got a Prey Vizsla there, which is really, really interesting.
I mean, it's only 1-0, so we need to kind of take this with a pinch of salt. But I'm sorry, any time I see leaders like that at this stage of the game, I'm going to point them out. We got some Kira on there. Poe Dameron, I Can Fly Anything, a leader I am incredibly fond of. We were talking about this yesterday. It seems to just like pick up PQ wins quite regularly, but unfortunately it's a deck which has not been representing at regionals and sectors yet.
We've also got a Kylo Ren that's in there. Kylo Ren, we're not done yet with Tarkin Town. Artur Lipinski is playing his Darth Vader pilots with Shield Generator Complex list.
Love it.
We've also got Iden Versio, which has seen a comeback recently over the past couple of weeks. Rey, more than a scavenger with Data Vault as well. That is the Vigilance Heroism Rey with Data Vault. Again, a deck that we've not seen in quite some time.
Nope.
Back when Joshua Freeman Birch played it in Season Zero's regional qualifier and finished top 8. That was a really, really fun deck. But certainly still a lot to talk about there. Cad Bane Tarkin Town, one that was very highly represented in the regional championships in Bilbao a couple of weekends ago, but still hasn't quite had that major event success. A couple of PQ results here and there, maybe, but no sector or regional wins to talk about yet. So still a very, very strong field and a lot of decks to be able to go through.
Cad Bane, if I remember correctly, there's more Cad Bane here than there are Mother Tolzien, and there was in Bilbao as well.
Yes, yeah.
And Cad Bane, like, there was a top 8 in Bilbao, and there was a top 4 in Portland as well. But Cad Bane is a deck which to me seems massively overrepresented relative to how it's finishing these tournaments. We see a lot of Cad Bane coming to these events in the Legends of the Force meta. And I'm sorry, I don't think it's necessarily earned it. There, I said it.
Wow. Because I really like the deck. I really, really love it because it relies on that Underworld keyword. It means that you can just pack a load of Underworld cards in there and have a really consistent engine and get so many of these Cad Bane pings happening action phase after action phase. The one card that I do think that is missing in the deck right now, and I've said about it in streams and events before, I will continue to say it until someone tries it and does well with it, is Martian Row that doubles all of your raid and turns your leader unit into a raid 4 as opposed to a raid 2, but at the moment hasn't been included here and maybe, just maybe, is the card that's needed to unlock that potential.
I mean, I like Cad Bane. When I was a kid, there was a book in the school library. It was Star Wars Bounty Hunters. It was basically a series of short stories about the Star Wars Bounty Hunters. I love the Star Wars Bounty Hunters. For Lorman Zuckus, very familiar with them. I know, everybody loves like IG-88 and Boba Fett. Don't be forgetting about, Forlorn and Zuckuss and Dengar.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong. Thematically, I love it. I'm just saying, when you look at the number of people playing it and how it's ending up in these tournaments, I think it's so far been an underperforming deck in the way that Mother tells him
Sure.
has been an overperforming deck. But we'll find out what's overperforming. We'll find out what's underperforming later. Right now, we need to go and get ready for round 3. So grab yourselves a nice cold beverage, but do not go anywhere. We've had 2 really fun rounds so far. I think round 3 is going to be better. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Germany, to Munich, to the Star Wars Sector Qualifier. My name's Ross. I'm joined by Ben, and get your Yoda impressions ready. We all know everyone's got a Yoda impression, just like you've got a Chewbacca impression. Don't pretend you don't. We know you do. If you like Yoda, happy you will be with our round 3.
Mirrors I will enjoy, because it's a Yoda mirror match in round number 3. And it's quite a special mirror match as well, actually, here. Bilbao had quite an interesting underlying theme with it of home nation players winning the event.
Yes.
Both players who won in Premier and in Sealed, respectively, were from the host nation of Spain. Here we have what is considered, and what we are informed by our German language casting team, is one of the best players in Germany playing in this feature match. Tim Gracer is going to be playing in round 3 in this Yoda command mirror.
Absolutely. And look, when the German casters tell us this is one of the top players in Germany, you should get them on the stream. Well, we tend to listen because they're going to know the German community a whole lot better than we are. So we got Alexander and we got Tim, both of whom are going to be playing Yoda with well, they're both playing Jedi Temple, actually, but any Command Force base will do. And it's not the exact same list. One of them is playing Anakin, Champion, and Mortis. One of them isn't playing Anakin, Champion, and Mortis. There are a few differences in the list. They are the same basic decks, let's be clear. The core of the deck is going to be the same, but we're going to see some differences as we go. Are any of them going to be enough to put one player over the edge? First, we need to draw our opening hand of 6 cards. We need to pick 4 to be our opening hand, 2 to go down as resources, or maybe you mulligan and try and get a new hand of 6 that might be better.
Yeah, this leader is a very, very interesting one. I always enjoy seeing Yoda getting played. Of course, you're going to see a lot of Restore flying around with Vigilance and Heroism on the leader as its aspects, and you're going to see a lot of filtration going on into that later game. And a tech that we've seen quite a lot of Yoda players use nowadays is that Ray, the Aggression Heroism Ray from Legends of the Force, whereby if you draw it not in the regroup phase, so any point during the action phase, you can reveal it and deal 2 damage to a unit and to the base. So we tend to see that getting looped quite frequently by drawing it in the action phase, then going to the regroup phase, and then using the Yoda leader action to be able to put a card back once a unit goes ahead and leaves play. So if your unit leaves play, draw a card, then put one from your hand to the top or bottom of the deck. If you put the Ray back down and you have another way to draw in the action phase, you've got that activation of the effect once again.
Absolutely do. I'm not seeing it in either of these deck lists, though, so we're going a little bit different, I believe, but there's still going to be some fun. We got Yoda leader, we got Yoda unit, because obviously that Legends of the Force Yoda is pretty spectacular. And we're going to be playing Force, but it's not quite like we saw from, say, Obi-Wan in the last round, where you have to have the Force every turn or the deck falls apart. Yoda can survive a little bit better with not necessarily always having the Force. Still something you're going to want to generate as much as you can, but it can survive without it. And also both, we're already going. We've got Yaddle there on the left from Tim. We are rolling round 3 of our sector qualifier. No play for Alexander. So we got Yaddle for Tim, and I suppose advantage Tim.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not really a mirror match that honestly I've come across too many times here. So whether the early aggression is favorable here, or whether it's a case of whoever blinks first tends to lose in these matchups, I'm going to be really interested to see just exactly how it's going to go on. We are going to see a resupply out of hand from Tim, which makes a lot of sense. Your leader unit doesn't deploy until 7 or more resources are on your side of the board. So the sooner that you can get there, the better. A pass and then a claim of the initiative. So no play again from Alexander here in these early stages. And whether this is deliberate or there's just nothing in hand, either way, like you said, advantage Tim had a question mark over it. I think that's maybe turning more into a full stop.
It might be. Now, we haven't really had much more aggression coming down from Tim other than that Yaddle. Oh, chill it, though. Here is a fun one, because we get that Sentinel coming down. and we see just attacking straight in with Yaddle. What you don't want to do is wait until the force has been generated, because then Chewett becomes a lot harder to take down, giving you -2, -2. Here we come in with the Battlefield Marine.
And that was it. Immediately claiming the initiative, Tim happy to pass with, look like 3 resources still remaining open. Of course, does have the resource advantage with that resupply that Tim's able to find on curve ahead of action phase number 2. But now here is that fear you were talking about, Ross. The force token has been generated with the Chura Imwe resupply carrier now being played into the Space Arena, the 4/5 that says when played, you can put your top card of the deck into play as a resource. And with the ramp that was done already, I believe that takes us to 7 if we do use the when played, and means that Yoda can deploy for Tim on this action phase.
We don't want 7 deployed leaders. It's too much. But when you ramp, it's essentially a 5 deployed leader, and that is a lot more reasonable. We see blue leader coming down from Alexander here, ambushing in, taking out that Yaddle, becoming a 5/5/5 on the ground rather than a 3/3/3 in the air. Takes that Yaddle straight away. Oh, and he's deciding we're using Yoda's skill, which I really like. Remember, you can always use a leader skill before you deploy the leader. So always, make sure you get the sequencing right so you get the double dip, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important in this leader as well, because it means that you see the extra card first before going ahead and then deploying into the leader unit itself as well. The leader unit is a 4/9, but when deployed, you discard the top card of your deck, which we're doing here. It's an itinerant warrior, and if you do, you get to defeat an enemy non-leader unit that costs the same as or less than the discarded card. So, like you say, always generally important for any leader to be able to double dip where you can. For Yoda, it's almost necessary to do so.
Well, Tim's playing keep away here. We took out the blue leader with Yoda after taking down the Chirrut with that skill on the leader Yoda. So we've now got Battlefield Marine, and we got Yoda deployed with nothing there for Alexander. And because they haven't yet ramped, they are actually not going to be able to get Yoda going. They're going into their 6th resource term. They're still not ready to deploy the leader.
Yeah, and Tim's going up to, 8 resources now, thanks to the double ramp with the resupply and the resupply carrier. It's always been something that a lot of Command players have had to think about when they are playing, again, one of these high resource deploy leader units. You want to play those cards like resupply, now with resupply carrier, super laser technician as well if you're playing in villainy, to be able to get you closer to that deployment and to those higher level resource characters and units onto the board as well.
Absolutely. So it looks like there is a decision being made. It looks like we're trading into
the blue leader.
The second blue leader going away here. Oh, that was Battlefield Marine taking out the second blue leader. We're using a Yoda skill from Alexander, but you know what we're not doing?
Not deploying the leader
We're not
unit.
deploying the leader, Ben. We don't have 7 resources.
No, we don't. We do see an interesting play in Tim's hand, and it's going to happen as well here. You're my only hope. It misses, though. It doesn't find anything of value. The Vanquish is not going to be able to do anything in this situation with Alexander on an empty board. Tim does recover, though, with the blue leader. No ambush necessary, but that's fine. It means it is just going to be a base 5/5/5 here, and the resupply carrier is going to swing in.
That's awkward, of course. When your leader gets defeated, you can then not use the leader skill on the undeployed version later that turn. You do end up exhausted. So a lot of the time, You're My Only Hope is played because Yoda can guarantee what's on top of your deck. Oh, it's a Luke Skywalker coming down. That is going to get rid of the blue leader. And we see the Yoda deploy as well. Resupply carrier, not as good.
And I think as well, that was a blind flip from Alexander on the Yoda deployment. That was a first action of the phase. Hit and hope, finds the Luke Skywalker. Means, of course, we're not going to be able to find additional copy right now, but power of the dark side out of aspect will be able to fuel into another certain Skywalker later in the game.
Yeah, that is what we need to have a villainy card in the discard. So Anakin, Champion of Mortis will get the double -3/-3. We do see the Itinerant Warrior coming down.
From the home one that's gone into the space arena,
Yes.
recurring the Itinerant Warrior that we used earlier on in the game to throw away from the Yoda leader deployment on Tim's side of the board. And now we've got to worry about a 7/7 Restore 2 in the space and the Itinerant Warrior with the shield that's also going to get Restore 1 after having the chance to heal when played. We do have the Vanquish at the very least to be able to deal with home one.
So home one's already gone, but then we've got Rivals Fall to take care of the leader. A lot of these cards don't target leaders, but Rivals Fall just says defeat a unit you absolutely can. So we're playing a lot of keep away on both sides, but Tim is having the better of it. Cheekily up to 13 damage on his opponent's base, just able to keep his units there a little bit better. And we're kind of going back and forth in true mirror match style, but Tim is having the best of it. Yaddle feels like a bit late in the game for Yaddle.
It's not bad, though. It's
still
not
bad.
And it is still going to give Itinerant Warrior Restore 1 again, because each other friendly Jedi unit will gain it on attack. Not as strong as the home 1 pressure was putting on here, but it's another 2/4. It's a Restore 1 in and of itself to be able to continue to keep any of the pressure that Alexander tries to put down.
Oh, speaking of pressure, though, here comes Anakin, Champion of Mortis, and we know we get the double -3/-3 because we saw the
power.
Thank you. Power of the dark side coming out of aspect.
Yeah, really nice here. Unfortunately, it's just going to have to pile into the one unit here, but when that's the Itinerant Warrior who still had its shield intact, you're not as concerned about it right now.
That was worth it. Oh, Village Protect. Now, I know you love this card, Ben. You talk about this card all the time. The rare example of a naturally shielded Sentinel.
Yeah, but we see now the Yoda coming down. This is that legendary that you were mentioning about the start of the game. When played, you can use the Force, and if you do, you heal 5. And anytime that you use the Force, you deal damage to a unit equal to twice the number of units you control. Now, importantly, is damage that's being dealt here. So going back to one of my favorite cards and my favorite common from Shadows of the Galaxy and Village Protectors, that damage is all just going to get soaked into the shield, so the Sentinel still does remain intact for now, not for long, but at least for that interaction, it's not a boatload of damage that's just being thrown in and wasted kind of thing.
No, not yet. We are all right in that regard. Now, we are getting up to... there's a lot of resources on the board, all right, Ben? I think, is there 13 there for Tim?
That would be crazy. What, 3, 6? I think there's at least 10 for Tim here. Alexander is going up to
3,
9.
6.
There should be 11, I think, going on the maths between the two players. Alexander is resourced naturally each action phase.
11.
And then with the double ramp between them, that's the disparity.
Yes, absolutely. Using a lot of that for Luke Skywalker, going to come down, not take out Anakin because of that 7 HP will actually save it. It's not a good unit right now, frankly.
Yeah.
It is sitting there at a
0-1.
0-1. But also, shout out to the team for having enough tokens to deal with it. There's so much Anakin and Luke around right now. We got Mother Toll's Index. We need quite a lot of these tokens running around, and we got them, so yay!
Yeah, and it does mean as well that the Yaddle is well primed to be able to just take out that Anakin Skywalker in Tim's next action here, as we've established, isn't going to take any damage back because all the reduction has meant that there is no power on the Champion of Mortis, so it's a free swing in. It will be a free restore activation if there were any damage on the base here. But now it's Alexander's turn to say,
you are my only hope. What do we hit?
Oh!
Anakin, Champion of Mortis, as a 1 cost. Oh, it's not really a 1 cost, it's a 4 cost. But still, it's a 4 cost Anakin, Champion of Mortis. That is good value. Hit that nicely there. And once again, we got Luke and Anakin.
Yeah, really quite nicely here. A little bit of a time warping differential about how both of them are facing off, but I suppose if you think about it, it is lore accurate that the two are
Luke, he
facing
is
off.
your father.
He is indeed, but we see here that Luke is going to try and be the one to defeat his superior and his elder, just getting a lot of damage into the base and putting Tim in a very strong position with all of those resources still available to use.
Well, we are seeing some swings here, but right now the important thing is that Tim is so far ahead. Now we get Yoda coming down, and that is going to take out the Anakin. So now we got Luke and Yoda, again, very canonically accurate, and they are teaming up. Do or do not bend. There is no try, and it looks like Tim is getting very close to winning. 5 away. Either...
But now there are two of them because a Yoda is coming down on Alexander's side of the board. Will be able to use a very impactful when played here with the amount of damage that was on their base and then the final damage necessary to be able to take care of the Luke on Tim's side of the board. So Alexander is trying as best as he can to try and give himself a little bit more life in this game here. But Tim, with that Yoda of his own, with the resource advantage that we've already established here, is deciding, you know what, I'm just not going to resource in this regroup phase here. I think I've got enough engine to be able to get through and take this game.
And that's the thing. You don't necessarily always want to be ahead on resources. That's not why you ramp. You ramp because you can get ahead now. So you can play these cards a little bit earlier, and then you can earlier get to that point where ramping is no longer really something you need to worry about too much. You've got enough resources, and when you've got enough resources, then the regroup phase just turns into a flat draw too, with enough resources to play those two cards, and that is where you can start really taking advantage. So we've got 2 Yoda against 2 Yoda with 2 Jedi Temple. This is now the damage on the board isn't the same, but outside of that, it is literally completely mirrored, except now Yoda's gone down from a vanquish.
Yeah, just straight up defeating a non-leader unit is going to clear the way for Obi-Wan to come down at the very least here. So that will stop the opportunities for Tim to just get the extra 5 damage into the base. We'll happily just take the trade on it here. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there's some kind of way
now
to
there's a
heal.
Luke coming down, and that is going to be enough to take out the Yoda. What can Tim counter with?
Rivals fall.
Okay, so basically a whole lot of nothing. That's essentially what happened there. Lots of cards were played, and at the end of it, the sum total was there ain't no Yoda there anymore.
Yeah, the sum totals were actually -2 on units on board across both players here. We started with both Yodas. We are now sans Yoda going into this new regroup phase where Tim has decided to resource here. Interesting, he didn't decide to in the last regroup phase. Alexander continuing to just go ahead, try and catch up on resources as best as possible to be able to have multiple high resource unit threats that he can play in an action phase.
Absolutely. Well, here we do see there's that Karis, I believe, that we had from before. Saw that in Mother Talzin. But then we got, and this one's actually Keller and Beck this time. And potentially bringing a friend to play. Does he have, and there's so many empty open resources here, you can actually grab an expensive unit here, and the -5 will still allow you to play it, even if it is, you know, a 6-7 cost unit. You've got enough resources to play. But do we have anything worth finding is the question.
We're quite some way into the board state here right now with the amount of resources that we've got right now here. It's really, really awkward. With the amount of stuff that we've already seen, a lot of those high-end threats will likely have already gone. There is a Luke that is available here to Tim. Isn't going to be able to deal with the Karis, I don't think, because it's just going to be -3. A unit has not been defeated. So at the very least, it's maybe setting up for some way to remove it, or just make it so that it's sort of, I've got a Luke on board and you don't.
I mean, yeah, basically, I have Luke, you don't have Luke. It always feels bad when you play a Luke when you haven't had a friendly unit defeated, because you're not getting full value. You never want to play card when you're not getting full value. However, you still got Luke on the board. Luke is still a very powerful unit. You still got the restore. You've still got the good stat. It's still a 6/7 with restore 3. It's still a phenomenal unit. It's one of the best cards we've seen in the game.
Yeah. And even in certain board states, the -3/-3 is just totally impactful enough. I mean, in this matchup in particular, you clear the way of something like the Village Protector's Sentinel, something like a Lothwolf as well, maybe, without having to go ahead and attack into it, as long as you're able to go ahead and play the resources for it. There is just the opportunity to go with that Luke sometimes, but we see with Alexander into this new action phase here after having to claim the initiative, he needs to find a way to out both this Luke and this Keller and Beck because they represent a lot of damage between them. It's essentially game on board.
Well, here comes a Luke, but again, I don't believe a friendly unit has been defeated this turn, has it?
It has been timely interventioned in those. This is being played with ambush to be able to deal with one of these units in this action here.
You can trade with a Luke because you do 6 to each other, but your -3 means that they actually well, no, because if you -3, surely it would only take 3 back. There we go.
Yes.
Now I was going to say, because you're thinking, right, the -3 means I can get rid of it, which is true. But then they also get -3 power, so you only take 3 back, not 6. That is a good Luke into Luke trade.
Oh, but there's the traitorous now from Tim to just steal away the only attacking option for Alexander in this action phase. We see another Village Protectors is going to go ahead and come down onto board here. So just going to sit in the way and be a real annoyance.
And this is where you need Luke.
Yeah.
Luke is great if you haven't had a friendly unit defeated. It still gets rid of that. But it is instead a Yoda, which is going to take out the Luke. Probably a better option than just getting the shield off the Village Protectors. Luke goes down because the Yoda comes and hits the board. And, okay, it looks like they're getting ready to deploy the leaders. But no, we're still on game 1.
Yeah.
You've already done that.
Yes.
They're not actually deploying leaders. We are instead just using that skill. We are looking at the card. We are getting it to the bottom of the deck. What have we got in terms of an option for moving forward?
Well, for Tim, it's just going to be, I'm going to deal with the Village Protectors right now. I'm not going to wait for any hard removal options or fancy Luke plays or anything. I think it wouldn't surprise me if Tim has actually expended all of his Luke Skywalkers in the deck at this late game stage. He just wants to try and finish this game off quickly and do it right now. Alexander does have a home 1 in hand at the very least, so is going to be able to be a potential annoyance in the space arena and bring the Village Protectors back as well, thanks to the home 1's when deployed ability to play a heroism unit from the discard pile and get a 3 resource reduction on it.
Absolutely. I mean, right now, I'm just looking at the board for you, Ben, right? We've got 15 damage on the base of Alexander. Tim has been restoring everything that goes on. There's no damage there. You got Luke, you got Yoda, Keller and Beck, and the stolen Karis to nothing. These mirror matches with Yoda aren't going to be that quick, but it does look like Tim has maneuvered himself into a fairly advantageous position. But here comes Yoda. There is another, and now we're going to be able to get some, well,
attacks in because it's timely intervention
again. I'm just trying to see, like, what are we doing with this? Where are we going? Is it going to be Keller and Beck?
Keller makes the most sense here because that's already got the 5 damage onto it. So the ambush in will be enough to be able to take that out here. And we're using the force to heal 5 and just going ahead and immediately, it looks like taking out the Karis in that situation, which then triggers the when defeated of Karis to remove the Yoda. So it's essentially kind of a 2 for 2 in a weird way. Like you've lost the Yoda, but you've answered 2 units on Tim's side of the board. So I don't think I'm super unhappy with that, but you would have maybe planned that out a little bit better in your head.
I don't like losing my Yoda if my opponent gets to keep their Yoda. It's generally a little bit of a thing. We do see the Phoenix Squadron A-Wing coming down. It's a vanilla ship. It's not as good, Ben, It's not as good as a home one.
Yeah, and it's going to be able to return the Keller
Oh,
and Beck.
No, but now we're cascading. Home one gets Keller and Beck, and now Keller and Beck goes against another. This is a 3-for-1 situation coming in here, because now we get ourselves
a village protector.
So the home one just got you a Keller and Beck and a village protectors. So now we've got the 7/7 unit for Keller and Beck and the shielded sentinel, not to mention the home one itself is a 7/7 in space with restore 1.
Yeah.
Sorry, restore 2.
This is a huge action phase for Tim, because not only that as well, but the home one gives everything else restore 1 as well. So even if Alexander does want to fly into the base in any way, shape, or form, he's just going to be able to heal it. And Alexander has said, I have seen enough. The cascading home 1 was far too much for me. Tim takes game 1 in the Yoda mirror.
And that was a pretty definitive win. That wasn't kind of a back and forth mirror match, squeaked it at the end. And there was a lot of back and forth in that game, don't get me wrong. But Tim had control of that game. They had the better board pretty much the whole game. They had the damage down as well. They were in control. So we'll talk about sideboard in a second, but a quick quiz for you, Ben.
Okay.
How many? 508 players coming into this round. How many Yoda?
Oh, I'd want to say 10.
16.
Okay.
But still not that many for the number of people we've got. Now, how many of them are playing Jedi Temple?
Oh, got to be all of them.
15, because for some reason, one of them, there is a second, I've lost the name, but I'll grab it in a second. There is a second command. It is command, isn't it?
Yeah.
Command Jedi base.
Okay. So it is still Command Jedi.
Oh, it's still Command Jedi.
Yeah.
But it's weird that 15 of them play Jedi Temple and one of them plays Starlight Temple.
Starlight Temple, yeah.
Which is still functionally identical. But I love that 15 out of 16 are playing Jedi Temple, and there's one guy that's like, I don't need no Jedi Temple.
You know what my assumption of it is that that's a hyperspace base, and that he doesn't have a hyperspace base for Jedi Temple.
Absolutely possible. So let's have a look at this sideboard here, Ben. Is there anything you're seeing from either player that could come in and be a tad bit spicy?
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting options here. For Tim, Salvage is quite a cool one, being able to play a vehicle unit from your discard pile. We saw how strong of a closer that home one was in that game 1. If we can play it from the discard pile as well, it could be even better. Do have to deal 1 damage to it, but unless you're ambushing in with something like Blue Leader, and even then you're not dealing with it in 1 action in that regard.
I've got one option I love here, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Timely reinforcements. Only Alexander has it, not Tim. But for every 2 resources an opponent controls, you create an X-Wing token and give it Sentinel.
Yes.
You're playing against the deck that's going to have like 12 resources out and doesn't really play in space. So those X-Wings can just kind of sit there hitting continually. I love timely reinforcements specifically against Yoda, because not only do they ramp early, but they tend to get to a high amount of resources, and they don't really check you in space very much at all. So those X-Wings are going to actually be able to do stuff.
Yeah, and especially if that home one does come down in game 2 for Tim here, being able to timely reinforcements at that point, or when it's ready to be able to attack, timely reinforcements at that point, it says, okay, you've got this big 7/7, but you're going to have to take 2 for it here with the Sentinel. And then I've got a bunch of other X-Wing tokens to either trade into it with the tokens or soften up for a Blue Leader ambush as well later in the action phase. So I'm with you. I like the idea of timely reinforcements coming in. There's also Eager Escort Fighter. I think both players have access to that in the side deck. It's just a simple 4/1 ambush unit. So again, when that home 1 does come down, ambush in with the Eager Escort Fighter and soften it up for Blue Leader, or for something like we were talking about with that timely reinforcements play. It's another outlet. We'll find out what's made its way in. Dueling Battlefield Marines on action phase 1 for both players, and we're straight into the regroup phase in phase 2.
We are. I just want to mention one more card here. It's Fell the Dragon. It's in Alexander's sideboard, but it will check Luke, it will check Yoda, it will check Keller and Beck. So a 4-cost that can get rid of those is pretty spicy. Here comes a Sentinel Obi-Wan for Tim. And we see the rare blue leader in space for Alexander. Usually this is ambushed into the ground. Now we see it in space. Maybe thinking if my opponent's not playing in space, this could be a free damage every turn.
Yeah, well, it's exactly what you said, that if Yoda isn't necessarily to check you in space, if we can get some of this early aggression going on in an arena that's not going to be contested until either Tim finds a blue leader of his own or into those late action phase stages of things like the home one, it could be something that we could just go ahead and arena dodge with and push the tempo in while Tim doesn't have Restore on board.
Well, Obi-Wan took out a Battlefield Marine, so once again, Tim is sitting there with a significantly better board. Battlefield Marine and an Obi-Wan against
a blue leader in the space, and that's about it.
Oh, I was just pausing to show that there's nothing on the board.
You're
right.
Interesting to note here as well at this point, while both players have gone through their Yoda leader actions and Tim has played a turret down, neither player has ramped in these early action phases. There's been no resupply from either player here. Obviously, we're not quite at the action phase for resupply carrier to maybe take advantage here and take into the space. But right now, both players are playing at the same tempo resource-wise in their row and just trying to make the best of it with the cards they have in the ground arena.
Is there an argument here that if, Yoda, you need to ramp because your opponent's deploying earlier. If your opponent isn't deploying earlier, why bother going to all the effort of ramping?
Certainly so. So Alexander is going to have the first action in this new phase with the initiative token, does have the itinerant warrior on the board, and there is Vanquish now coming down for Alexander to just immediately take out that turret in way, saying, I don't want to worry about any sentinels that can reduce incoming damage with the force token. I just want it gone, and I want this itinerant warrior to either deal with Obi-Wan before it gets sentinel again, or just put some early pressure again into Tim's base.
Very nice. Now, it does look like we are going to... Oh, no, we're going to see a swing with the itinerant warrior here into base. And, I mean, already Alexander's done a lot better getting damage on the base than he managed in game one. We're already up to 10. Now, we are seeing You're My Only Hope. We do not want a whiff.
Oh!
It's a Luke, and Luke takes down that itinerant warrior. And to be fair, I'm pretty sure that was stacked with the Yoda skill, because it was a very quick, oh, look, I've got a Luke.
Yeah, it definitely was. But it's one of the beauties that you can have with that Yoda deck is that you can afford yourself that surety of a card like You're My Only Hope being able to hit. It's the same that we said about in the Ray combo in the opening stages of this matchup, that you can stack the Ray there. If you've got a way to draw it or see it in the action phase, you know that the 2 damage trigger is going to activate. The same could be said for You're My Only Hope. You're going to know exactly what's going to go onto the top of the deck, and if you've got that opportunity to pay with the extra resources, if it's something a little bit more expensive like Luke is in this case, you've got the time to work with.
Absolutely, you do. Now, here comes the other one of those big Jedi. We've got the Anakin Skywalker, Champion of Mortis. Now, because we played a villainy card.
No, we have
so it's
not.
Just a -3/-3. He's going to take out the Sentinel Obi-Wan.
Which is totally fine, honestly. Being able to remove that conditional Sentinel each and every action phase, we know how important and impactful that Force units have been in this format, has essentially sort of shaped the format around the mechanic, really, with most players opting for these Force bases when they are able to. So being able to turn off that constant value engine makes a lot of sense, and you've still got the 5/7 on board.
Yeah, that you do. Here comes a Yoda skill from Alexander here. Card going to the bottom of the deck, not what they wanted to keep on the top. And here we see, oh, look, now we're ramping. Resupply character is coming down. And I cannot help but look at the resources and think, next turn, that could be 4 X-Wings.
Yeah, but the problem for this action phase is that it's a Yoda leader deployment, and Alexander has nothing to do. We're going to immediately flip the 8-cost Yoda as well to deal with Champion of Mortis with the when deployed ability. Yoda will swing in for some extra damage here.
We're getting close here, Ben. We got 22 damage, only 6 needed. Game is on board for next turn.
Game even better is in one action with the 7-cost Luke Skywalker. So if Alexander doesn't have a way to be able to deal with that Luke on the board, at least as long as the damage that's represented on base is correct, then it will just be game, and Tim will move to 3-0. Alexander has this action phase. I do see, I think, a Luke of Alexander's own in hand.
But that's not going to do enough. It's only a -6/-6 at best. That is not going to be enough to take out the 7 HP Luke. You will need something else. Now, it would, of course. Now, here we see the deployment of the Yoda with a "You're my only hope." It's not enough to take out the Luke, which means Luke can swing. Tim can win 2 games to 0 and go to 3-0.
Yeah, I think what's being said.
Okay, there we go. There's the swing with Luke, and there is the game. Sorry to cut you off there, Ben. People need to know the game is over. Tim won 2-0.
Yeah, and I think the motioning there that Alexander was making, which made it maybe a little bit confusing visually, is I think he was basically saying if this was any higher cost card, because that was a blind flip of the Yoda leader deployment, recognizing that with the Luke Skywalker, I'm only getting a -3/-3. So with so many high resource cards in the deck, if I can find something a little bit better to immediately answer this, Luke, as opposed to just prolong the inevitable throughout the remainder of these action phases here, that would be a little bit more favored. I'm not 100% sure whether that was the correct answer in that situation here. I think I would have much rather played down the Luke, been able to reduce the power of the Luke that's on Tim's side of the board. You've then still got the deployment of Yoda leader unit to flip and be able to hopefully deal straight away with a unit on Tim's side. So
he had the Yoda leader he'd not yet attacked with as well. So
yeah, it's still affording you an extra action, I think.
No, I agree with you. It gets an extra action, but I think what Alexander's thinking there is, if I can get rid of the Luke, I am really buying myself some time. But it's a lot of this hindsight stuff. Like, if he hits a card expensive enough to get the Luke, Alexander's like, what a play. I am back in this game. And unfortunately, Tim, the thing was, both game 1 and game 2, Tim seemed very much in control. His board was a lot better a lot of the time. He was dealing very well with the units. And even in game 2, there was a bit of a difference in that Alexander was getting a bunch of damage on the board. But it didn't really matter, because what Tim was doing was still taking out the units, letting a bit of damage build up. It doesn't really matter, because I've got restore, I've got plenty of time, and I know at least I feel very confident that I am going to be ending up at the end of the game with the better board state represented. And that is exactly what we saw. When your opponent has to try a blind flip with the Yoda leader skill to take out the Luke to stay in the game, even if you don't win that turn, you're still probably in a pretty strong position.
Yeah, and once again as well, even though it was a little bit later in that game 2, we saw the impact of what the ramp can do for leaders like this that deploy with the epic action on those 7-8 resources that are necessary. Being able to find that resupply carrier on curve of the 6 resource action phase to get you the 7th and deploy just meant that immediately Alexander was way too far behind. Even if he was able to stabilize in that action phase, you've got that opportunity later on to go into things like your home one, things like your 8-cost Leodas a little bit easier if you're Tim, whereas if you're Alexander, you're still playing catch up in that regard.
No, absolutely. And that's the thing, when you're playing a mirror match and you still get to deploy your leader a turn earlier than your opponent, or 2 turns earlier, I believe it was in game 1.
Yeah.
That is a huge advantage, because now you're getting, 2 extra turns of your leader, and it can cascade from there. Well, with 3 rounds in, I think we've seen 3 pretty interesting games. And look, we're checking this for you. There's some interesting players left out there. There's some interesting decks left out there. I believe the players are going to have a little bit of lunch now, but we're going to be back very shortly with round 4 So grab yourself a nice cold beverage, maybe even make yourself a sandwich, but don't go far. We are just heating up here in Munich, despite how cold it actually is outside. And we have got some spicy games coming up. We got 5 more rounds. It's going to be awesome. Don't go far. Absolutely. And look, when the German casters tell us this is one of the top players in Germany, you should get them on the stream. Well, we tend to listen because they're going to know the German community a whole lot better than we are. So we got Alexander and we got Tim, both of whom are going to be playing Yoda with the... Well, they're both playing Jedi Temple, actually, but any Command Force base will do. And it's not the exact same list. One of them is playing Anakin, Champion, and Mortis. One of them isn't playing Anakin, Champion, and Mortis. There are a few differences in the list. They are the same basic decks, let's be clear. The core of the deck is going to be the same, but we're going to see some differences as we go. Are any of them going to be enough to put one player over the edge? First, we need to draw our opening hand of 6 cards. We need to pick 4 to be our opening hand, 2 to go down as resources, or maybe you mulligan and try and get a new hand of 6 that might be better.
Yeah, this leader is a very, very interesting one. I always enjoy seeing Yoda getting played. Of course, you're going to see a lot of Restore flying around with Vigilance and Heroism on the leader as its aspects, and you're going to see a lot of filtration going on into that later game. And a tech that we've seen quite a lot of Yoda players use nowadays is that Ray, the Aggression Heroism Ray from Legends of the Force, whereby if you draw it not in the regroup phase, so at any point during the action phase, you can reveal it and deal 2 damage to a unit and to the base. So we tend to see that getting looped quite frequently by drawing it in the action phase, then going to the regroup phase, and then using the Yoda leader action to be able to put a card back once a unit goes ahead and leaves play. So if your unit leaves play, draw a card, then put one from your hand to the top or bottom of the deck. If you put the Ray back down and you have another way to draw in the action phase, you've got that activation of the effect once again.
Absolutely do. I'm not seeing it in either of these deck lists, though, so we're going a little bit different, I believe, but there's still going to be some fun. We got Yoda Leader, we got Yoda Unit, because obviously that Legends of the Force Yoda is pretty spectacular, and we're going to be playing Force, but it's not quite like we saw from, say, Obi-Wan in the last round, where you have to have the Force every turn or the deck falls apart. Yoda can survive a little bit better with not necessarily always having the Force. Still something you're going to want to generate as much as you can, but it can survive with LT. And also both... Oh, we're already going. We've got Yaddle there on the left from Tim. We are rolling round 3 of our sector qualifier. No play for Alexander. So we got Yaddle for Tim, and I suppose advantage Tim.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not really a mirror match that, honestly, I've come across too many times here. So whether the early aggression is favorable here, or whether it's a case of whoever blinks first tends to lose in these matchups, I'm going to be really interested to see just exactly how it's going to go on. We are going to see a resupply out of hand from Tim, which makes a lot of sense. Your leader unit doesn't deploy until 7 or more resources are on your side of the board. So the sooner that you can get there, the better. A pass and then a claim of the initiative. So no play again from Alexander here in these early stages. And whether this is deliberate or there's just nothing in hand, either way, like you said, advantage Tim had a question mark over it. I think that's maybe turning more into a full stop.
It might be. Now, we haven't really had much more aggression coming down from Tim other than that Yaddle. Oh, chill it, though. Here is a fun one, because we get that Sentinel coming down and we see just attacking straight in with Yaddle. What you don't want to do is wait until the Force has been generated, because then Chewett becomes a lot harder to take down, giving you -2/-2. Here we come in with the Battlefield Marine.
And that was it. Immediately claim with the initiative. Tim happy to pass with, look like 3 resources still remaining open. Of course, does have the resource advantage with that resupply that Tim's able to find on curve ahead of action phase number 2. But now here is that fear you were talking about, Ross. The Force token has been generated with the Chura Imwe resupply carrier now being played into the space arena, the 4/5 that says when played, you can put your top card of the deck into play as a resource. And with the ramp that was done already, I believe that takes us to 7 if we do use the when played, and means that Yoda can deploy for Tim on this action phase.
We don't want 7 deployed leaders, it's too much. But when you ramp, it's essentially a 5 deploy leader, and that is a lot more reasonable. We see blue leader coming down from Alexander here, ambushing in, taking out that Yaddle, becoming a 5/5/5 on the ground rather than a 3/3/3 in the air. Takes that Yaddle straight away. Oh, and he's deciding we're using Yoda's skill, which I really like. Remember, you can always use a leader skill before you deploy the leader. So always, make sure you get the sequencing right so you get the double dip, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important in this leader as well, because it means that you see the extra card first before going ahead and then deploying into the leader unit itself as well. The leader unit is a 4/9, but when deployed, you discard the top card of your deck, which we're doing here. It's an itinerant warrior, and if you do, you get to defeat an enemy non-leader unit that costs the same as or less than the discarded card. So, like you say, always generally important for any leader to be able to double dip where you can. For Yoda, it's almost necessary to do so.
Well, Tim's playing keep away here. We took out the blue leader with Yoda after taking down the Chirrut with that skill on the leader Yoda. So we've now got Battlefield Marine, and we got Yoda deployed with nothing there for Alexander. And because they haven't yet ramped, they are actually not going to be able to get Yoda going. They're going into their 6th resource turn. They're still not ready to deploy the leader.
Yeah, and Tim's going up to, 8 resources now, thanks to the double ramp with the resupply and the resupply carrier. It's always been something that a lot of Command players have had to think about when they are playing, again, one of these high resource deploy leader units. You want to play those cards like resupply, now with resupply carrier, super laser technician as well if you're playing in villainy, to be able to get you closer to that deployment and to those higher level resource characters and units onto the board as well.
Absolutely. So it looks like there is a decision being made. It looks like we're trading into
Blue leader,
the second blue leader going away here. Oh, that was Battlefield Marine taking out the second blue leader. We're using a Yoda skill from Alexander, but you know what we're not doing?
Not deploying the leader
We're not deploying the leader, Ben. We don't have 7 resources.
No, we don't. We do see an interesting play in Tim's hand, and it's going to happen as well here. You're my only hope. It misses, though. It doesn't find anything of value. The Vanquish is not going to be able to do anything in this situation with Alexander on an empty board. Tim does recover, though, with the blue leader. No ambush necessary, but that's fine. It means it is just going to be a base 5/5/5 here, and the resupply carrier is going to swing in.
That's awkward, of course. When your leader gets defeated, you can then not use the leader skill on the undeployed version later that turn. You do end up exhausted. So a lot of the time, You're My Only Hope is played because Yoda can guarantee what's on top of your deck. Oh, it's a Luke Skywalker coming down. That is going to get rid of the blue leader. And we see the Yoda deploy as well. Resupply carrier, not as good.
And I think as well, that was a blind flip from Alexander on the Yoda deployment. That was a first action of the phase. Hit and hope, finds the Luke Skywalker. Means, of course, we're not going to be able to find additional copy right now, but Power of the Dark Side out of Aspect will be able to fuel into another certain Skywalker later in the game.
Yeah, that is what we need to have a villainy card in this card. So Anakin, Champion, and Mortis will get the double -3/-3. We do see the Itinerant Warrior coming down
from the home one that's gone into the space arena, recurring the Itinerant Warrior that we used earlier on in the game to throw away from the Yoda leader deployment on Tim's side of the board. And now we've got to worry about a 7/7 Restore 2 in the space and the Itinerant Warrior with the shield that's also going to get Restore 1 after having the chance to heal when played. We do have the Vanquish at the very least to be able to deal with home 1.
So home 1's already gone, but then we've got Rivals Fall to take care of the leader. A lot of these cards don't target leaders, but Rivals Fall just says defeat a unit you absolutely can. So we're playing a lot of keep away on both sides, but Tim is having the better of it. Cheekily up to 13 damage on his opponent's base, just able to keep his units there a little bit better. And we're kind of going back and forth in true mirror match style, but Tim is having the best of it. Yaddle feels like a bit late in the game for Yaddle.
It's not bad though.
It's still not bad.
And it is still going to give Itinerant Warrior Restore 1 again, because each other friendly Jedi unit will gain it on attack. Not as strong as the home 1 pressure was putting on here, but it's another 2-4. It's a Restore 1 in and of itself to be able to continue to keep any of the pressure that Alexander tries to put down.
Oh, speaking of pressure though, here comes Anakin, Champion of Mortis, and we know we get the double -3/-3 because we saw the
power.
Thank you, power of the dark side coming out of Aspect.
Yeah, really nice here. Unfortunately, it's just going to have to pile into the 1 unit here, but when that's the Itinerant Warrior who still had its shield intact, you're not as concerned about it right now.
That was worth it. Oh, Village Protect. Now, I know you love this card, Ben. You talk about this card all the time. The rare example of a naturally shielded Sentinel.
Yeah, but we see now the Yoda coming down. This is that legendary that you were mentioning about at the start of the game. When played, you can use the Force, and if you do, you heal 5. And anytime that you use the Force, you deal damage to a unit equal to twice the number of units you control. Now, importantly, is damage that's being dealt here. So going back to one of my favorite cards and my favorite common from Shadows of the Galaxy and Village Protectors, that damage is all just going to get soaked into the shield, so the Sentinel still does remain intact for now. Not for long, but at least for that interaction, it's not a boatload of damage that's just being thrown in and wasted kind of thing.
No, not yet. We are all right in that regard. Now, we are getting up to... there's a lot of resources on the board, all right, Ben? I think, is there 13 there for Tim?
That would be crazy, but 3, 6, I think there's at least 10 for Tim here. Alexander is going up to
3,
9.
6.
There should be 11, I think, going on the maths between the 2 players. Alexander is resourced naturally each action
correct,
phase,
11.
and then with the double ramp between them, that's the disparity.
Yes, absolutely. Using a lot of that for Luke Skywalker, going to come down, not to take out Anakin, because of that 7 HP will actually save it. It's not a good unit right now, frankly.
Yeah.
It is sitting there at a
0-1.
0-1. But also, shout out to the team for having enough tokens to deal with it. There's so much Anakin and Luke around right now. We got Mother Toll's Index. We need quite a lot of these tokens running around, and we got them, so yay!
Yeah, and it does mean as well that the Yaddle is well primed to be able to just take out that Anakin Skywalker in Tim's next action here. As we've established, isn't going to take any damage back because all the reduction has meant that there is no power on the Champion of Mortis. So it's a free swing in. It will be a free restore activation if there were any damage on the base here. But now it's Alexander's turn.
You're my only hope. What do we hit?
Oh!
Anakin, Champion of Mortis, as a 1 cost. Oh, it's not really a 1 cost, it's a 4 cost. But still, it's a 4 cost Anakin, Champion of Mortis. That is good value. Hit that nicely there. And once again, we got Luke and Anakin.
Yeah, really quite nicely here. A little bit of a time warping differential about how both of them are facing off, but I suppose if you think about it, it is lore accurate that the two are facing
Luke, he is
off.
your father.
He is indeed, but we see here that Luke is going to try and be the one to defeat his superior and his elder, just getting a lot of damage into the base and putting Tim in a very strong position with all of those resources still available to use.
Well, we are seeing some swings here, but right now the important thing is that Tim is so far ahead. Now we get Yoda coming down, and that is going to take out the Anakin. So now we got Luke and Yoda, again, very canonically accurate, and they are teaming up. Do or do not, Ben. There is no try, and it looks like Tim is getting very close to winning. 5 away. Either
But now there are two of them, because a Yoda is coming down on Alexander's side of the board. Will be able to use a very impactful when played here with the amount of damage that was on their base, and then the final damage necessary to be able to take care of the Luke on Tim's side of the board. So Alexander is trying as best as he can to try and give himself a little bit more life in this game here. But Tim, with that Yoda of his own, with the resource advantage that we've already established here, is deciding, you know what, I'm just not going to resource in this regroup phase here. I think I've got enough engine to be able to get through and take this game.
And that's the thing. You don't necessarily always want to be ahead on resources. That's not why you ramp. You ramp because you can get ahead now. So you can play these cards a little bit earlier, and then you can earlier get to that point where ramping is no longer really something you need to worry about too much. You've got enough resources, and when you've got enough resources, then the regroup phase just turns into a flat draw too, with enough resources to play those two cards, and that is where you can start really taking advantage. So we've got two Yoda against two Yoda with two Jedi Temple. This is now the damage on the board isn't the same, but outside of that, it is literally completely mirrored, except now Yoda's gone down from a vanquish.
Yeah, just straight up defeating a non-leader unit is going to clear the way for Obi-Wan to come down at the very least here. So that will stop the opportunities for Tim to just get the extra 5 damage into the base. We'll happily just take the trade on it here, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there's some kind of
but now
way
there's
to
a
heal.
Luke coming down, and that is going to be enough to take out the Yoda. What can Tim counter with?
Rivals fall.
Okay, so basically a whole lot of nothing. That's essentially what happened there. Lots of cards were played, and at the end of it, the sum total was there ain't no Yoda there anymore.
Yeah, the sum totals were actually -2 on units on board across both players here. We started with both Yodas. We are now sans Yoda going into this new regroup phase where Tim has decided to resource here. Interesting, he didn't decide to in the last regroup phase. Alexander continuing to just go ahead, try and catch up on resources as best as possible to be able to have multiple high resource unit threats that you can play in an action phase.
Absolutely. Well, here we do see there's that Karis, I believe, that we had from before. Saw that in Mother